how to see, how to read data, etc. Right? So the lecture would be foundational, uh, and it is towards basic. And hopefully, as you go towards other lectures as well, you will use those tools, let's say Excel or SQL or Python, uh, and use what we have learned today to arrive at insights. Right? So that's with me. Just give me a second. We'll start the lecture. Let me present my screen. If someone can just message uh, that if my screen is visible, that will be great. And then I'll switch on the recording. Yeah, just give me a second.
Recording in progress.
Yeah. Um, Other folks can also switch on their videos. It will help me to understand if you guys are following or not. It's easier for the instructor to track whether you are understanding a concept or not, right? So yeah, uh, we'll start. We'll start with some basic questions and then we'll go towards difficult questions in the second half today, where I'll give you some problems. You just think why should you use a certain type of uh, not metric, but certain things, right? So where do you want to use those things, etc. So the first lecture would be slightly foundational, slightly theoretical. We'll ask more questions, understand basics. But yeah, so let's start. Right. The agenda today would be introduction about data or data analytics, and then we'll go towards types of data analytics, data lifecycle, data literacy. There is something called as correlation versus causation. Uh, if you have heard, that's great. If you have not heard, I'll just explain that. Then we'll just wrap it up with some Q&A. So it's a basic lecture. We'll keep it as a foundational lecture. Towards the next lecture, we'll have more questions, more things, right? So let's start. Right. Can anyone answer like what do you think? What is data? Right. When we say data analytics, in terms of data analytics, not mobile data. Anyone in chat? What comes to mind? Yeah.
Collection of information.
Collection of information. Okay. Great answer. Anything else?
A collection of information for the analysis.
True, but you won't always analyze an information. I'll give an example for this, but collection of information is fair enough. So, right, it doesn't have to get more complicated. So, it's basically collection of information or measurements or some facts or some observations, etc.
Okay.
So, generally, data can be as simple as uh, what is the temperature today, right? It's 15 degrees Celsius. Number of moons Jupiter has, let's say 62, right? These are basically raw numbers, raw information. So 25 degrees Celsius, 5,000 rupees, 120 customers, yes or no, anything, right? This does not have to be number or numerical. This can be in form of image or it can be in form of audio as well, right? For example, when you use GPT, you put some information, right? Through you upload an image or you upload a video, right? Or you upload a PDF, right? You're uploading data in a PDF format, right? So data does not have to be numerical. It can be numerical, categorical, etc., which we'll learn about in a minute, right? Uh, by itself, data actually doesn't have its own meaning. You have to analyze it to get meaning out of it, right? So what happens is, let's say you have this thing, right? 5,000 rupees or 4 star, right? What do you do with it, right? The information is very limited. It doesn't actually make sense. So you need something which we call as uh, uh, we basically add some context. So data plus context gives you information. So it can be 25 degrees Celsius is very less. What is Pune's temperature today? So it is, you have more information now because you have context that this temperature is of a certain city at a certain date or a certain time. So data plus context gives you information. When you get that information, this is where you go to the next step, and this is where something called data analytics comes into picture, right? Let's say I'll take the first example. 25 degrees Celsius, right? Pune's temperature is 25 degrees Celsius today. In itself, it is not, it doesn't give you anything related to analytics. It, of course, gives you information. What is Pune's temperature today, right? But to get some analytics out of it, right? You see some historical trend. You go back in time. Okay, what was it in month of June? What was it in month of March, January? Or you see a daily trend, right? Similarly, you see these things at a different trend. You draw a trend line. You calculate some kind of average, right? What is the average rating of a product? So in this case, it is 4 stars. So you'll reach 3.5 star, 2 star, etc. You see some patterns, right? Let's say you have a e-commerce platform, right? You have a e-commerce platform like Flipkart. So there,
आवाज मत
you
करो
of course
जीरो.
see a huge number of sales during weekend, or in restaurants you see huge number of sales during weekend, right? So you have a insight now from the information that on weekends I have seen the average order value is very high, or average ticket sale is very high, right? And this is where insight kicks in, and this is where analytics starts to come into picture, right? So first you have the data, you have some context, you get knowledge about it, then you see some kind of trend, some kind of there are different type of analytics which we'll talk about. But just to give a picture, maybe you can go back in time, compare with A or B, or compare with metro, non-metro, different types of cohorts, right? For example, there are 120 customers for from metro city, but non-metro has 100 customers, right? But the base matters, right? Out of how many people, right? So this is where analytics starts to kick in. And once you have those insights, you start to give some decision, right? At the end of the day, whenever you're doing any kind of analytics, our objective is to provide some insight, some final decision to the user or to the company or for us, right? Ourselves as well. Um, so yeah, so this is in general what is data. No need, I won't complicate it more. It's as easy as it is. So this is in general the process, right? Just to hint on it, data, as I said, right, can be numerical, non-numerical. In um, professional terminology, it is known as qualitative and quantitative. We'll talk about this in the later slides, but basically, qualitative and quantitative are numerical and non-numerical types of data, and that will have more types like discrete and continuous, which you would have learned in your 10 or plus 2 or plus 1, 11th or 12th, right? So this is what is a little about what is data. We'll go ahead. We'll see uh, how people make decisions, right? Uh, so this is a very open-ended question. I'll try to give an example out of it. Um, so as I told you, right, decisions is the last aspect. Before that, data is collected in some form or shape. So in whatever you're doing, right, from even attending this lecture to doing anything, whatever decision you arrive on, you have taken those decision basis some or the other kind of data. I'll give an example. Um, let's say you want to use a smartphone, right? You want to buy a new smartphone. There's a sale going on. So you see some kind of parameters, some kind of data like What is the storage space? How is the camera? Is it a reputed company or not? What is the price of the product, etc. Right? So subconsciously, you take these points, basically, which is data, and then you make a decision. It can be as simple as uh, why are you attending, let's say, today's lecture, right? So you made that call because, let's say, you might get certificate, right? Or this is very important for your career, or you're not doing anything in the morning, right? And it is basically some points are there, some data points are there, and that is how you make a certain decision, right? So let me ask slightly relatable example to you, and that will help me to understand what kind of data a company tracks, right? So let's say I was using Instagram in the morning, right? Um, uh, if those who don't have Instagram, you can compare it to YouTube or YouTube Shorts. So basically, I was just scrolling through the feed, which is the Reels section, and I was getting reels for gym, for travel, aesthetic, some entertainment, etc. After some scrolls, Instagram started showing me more content towards gym and aesthetic travel content, basically. Right. So I started with 5, 6 content when I was scrolling. And after some scrolls, after some time, not more than 10 minutes or not more than 7 minutes, I started to go towards certain niche content. The question to you guys is, what kind of data would have Instagram collected in that short duration of time that Instagram made a decision that if I show, let's say, gym content to this guy or travel or aesthetic content to this guy, this person is going to stay more on the platform.
So basically, Instagram tracks whatever content someone is watching, and
Yeah.
therefore they tries to show you the similar content so that one is using Instagram like again and again.
Right. So, Ansh, great point. But this is at a very high level point, right? If I have to talk to someone, here Instagram tracks your activity. That's why it shows you that recommendations. I'm saying what activities track now, like one level deeper. What exactly was tracked? What data was exactly tracked? So we
Uh,
are trying to define data. Just say we have temperature in the earlier case. Yeah.
uh,
Someone.
it may be time like one particular reel. If we are watching it totally fully, that it means we are interested in that reel.
Okay. So we'll just write it somewhere.
Behavioral data.
Just give me a second so that we have. Um, Let me start. Yeah. So the problem statement was Instagram has basically made a decision. This is use case by use case, but in I made it something which I relate to show me let's say gym content or uh, travel slash aesthetic reels, right? Someone said, I think Deepika said, time a content, a reel was watched for, right? Is that right understanding, Deepika?
Um, like for a beginner, if I had to analyze someone,
Hmm.
if I show my kid some different journals of movie, I
Hmm.
understand like if she's seeing some content for like 5 to 10 minutes, I feel she is getting interested into it.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So this is right, Matlab, this is fair. So we'll just write all the data points which we can think of, which were used by Instagram to show me the gym content. है ना? So this is one information, right? Time a reel was watched for. Of course, it should be there. There will be two columns. Actually, the data will look like this. Time. So content type, let's say it would be gym, it would be entertainment, etc., etc. And then will be, let's say, comedy, some news or something. ये reel one है. This is reel one because of course multiple reels are there. Reel one, let's say I watched 4 minutes out of 4.5 minutes, right? Because since we discussed time, entertainment I watched, let's say 3 out of 10. So there are two types of data which are there. One is the type of content. Instagram track the type of content. Instagram track the time which I spent on the reel. This is one data point. There are more data points. Can someone else suggest something else?
Yeah, number of likes
Maybe
and comments
likes,
Like
comments,
number
share.
of likes and comments.
per kind of videos.
So, so, think about it, right? You want to show the content to me, right? Uh, अगर किसी रील के let's say entertainment has 10 million likes and if gym let's say has 1 million likes and still I'm getting gym content recommended later, will number of likes matter?
No, I mean that have
Yeah.
you liked that kind of
Okay.
content?
Yeah, got it. So if I have liked, right, that is different. We'll be very explicit. If I have liked a certain reel or let's say comment,
Yes.
I'll include save and share as well. These are high value actions actually. So I'll just move this here. It's not needed. Have I liked it? Commented on it. Something of that sort, right? And save and share, right? Fair, right? Anything else that comes to your mind?
Maybe like user base, like people who watch gym reels also watched another gym reel. So based on common users.
Mm, I believe it's a great point actually that Instagram, this information is something which is out of, I would say, syllabus. This is persona information. Basically, Instagram had my login details, right? That time when I was signing up, my age, etc., a lot of things were there. So there is a persona which is defined. For example, you can relate when you're ordering from Flipkart or Amazon, you are a Metro customer, non-Metro customer. So every Flipkart knows, okay, you're Metro, you are, let's say, you have ordered some things in past, right? Basis that I know you are a high value customer or whatever you are, you fit in this persona. Once Instagram has labeled me into a persona, Instagram will show same kind of reels, which is fair. So other people have seen something similar. This is basically cohort, right? Creation of cohort is a different topic together. For this, you require data actually. This is like, hence I'm saying this is like out of syllabus. This is a great point, but this is like out of syllabus. We are at a very basic point now. But this is a very valid point. Anything else that you think?
Maybe time of the day when
Awesome.
the
Yeah. Time of the day matters actually. So it can happen that I am seeing these reels, as I said, in the morning, right? And in the morning, generally, not compulsory, but in the morning, a lot of population goes to workout, be it walking, be it something else. A lot of population prefers that to start their day and then they go to office, right? And to be honest, no one is interested in entertainment in the morning. Like, of course, we sit for some time, but we had more focus towards work, more focus towards, let's say, lecture or work, etc. Right? So fair points, right? Anything else? These are, I believe, great pointers to start with.
In profile details like username, bios.
Yeah, maybe not necessary, maybe. This will come into persona, but it has the reason for maybe it actually has very less weight.
For example, if someone has more in like let's say 1K followers, 2K followers, so they used to target the advertising as well by checking the profiles.
Right, but that won't uh, tell Instagram to show me a gym content, right?
Okay.
Right. At the end, we are thinking why a gym content was shown to me, right? It can be as simple as that people are showing ads. You don't know. It's a paid collaboration. right? Ads आ गए feed में, that's why you're seeing more gym content now. Or you clicked on an ad before and that's why you're seeing more gym content now. That's how it operates actually. But yeah, so these are very great points. I believe TikTok points we have covered. These make sense.
Hi, Ujjwal.
Yeah,
Manisha Desai.
yeah.
Can we consider, I mean, the reel completion rate? I mean, how many times we have completed the same niche reels, or
Right.
how many? I mean, how many times in a loop we have watched the same reel?
The answer is yes. Uh, Frequency of, let's say, watching a same reel. I'll tell you some issues with this. Practically what happens, but fair point. It is a fair point. I'm not tagging completion rate here because this would be approximate translate to completion rate when we define metrics, right? So we had defined something called as time we have watched, basically, and total time of the reel. Just give me a second. Total time of reel. Uh, yeah. So total time of read, right? So this is basically the completion rate 4 by 30, and this is what we call as metrics. We'll come to that later, but yeah, fair point. So this is what is data, right? Left side is what we are collecting as data. Now, if you want to arrive at some kind of insight, right? Some kind of decision, um, the right hand side is actually very, very big. So you see reel 1, you see reel 2, you see reel 3. Then you would see something like reel 4, and this is gym reel again, right? And then there will be comedy, right? And then these numbers would keep on changing. And of course, these numbers would keep on changing. So you can imagine there is a very huge table which is created right now because reels are generally people have. Okay, so Instagram has a metric called as view time for 3 seconds, view rate for 3 seconds. People generally, if they're not seeing your reel for more than 3 seconds, they drop off. If you start posting on Instagram, you can see this metric. My point was that people see a lot of reels within 5 minutes. Like they just scroll 60 seconds, like in within 20 seconds, they quickly see and they keep on scrolling reel, right? So a lot of data is collected here, and once you have collected this data, you need to do some kind of analysis where uh, from which you can recommend a certain rate. So in this table, there is one thing which I'll add as a column: time of uh, timestamp is a great word, right? Timestamp of seeing these things, right? So it can be 9 a.m., 9:01, 9:02, etc., etc. This is the parent table. This is today's table. We can have, of course, yesterday's table as well for the same time duration. And of course, Instagram can give some weight, more weight, okay, 50% or 70% weightage to today's reels, 30% weightage to yesterday's reels. So this is where some kind of analytics comes into picture. This is where data analytics comes into picture, right? So we started with something, a use case that why this decision was, we started with the question, right? Why this is happening. Then we collected some kind of data which we think is there. Ideally, these things are collected before building something. Right now, we are analyzing it from back, right? That's why we are thinking that, okay, Instagram is doing this, Instagram is doing that. But if you think from Instagram's point of view, when someone wants to build a recommendation system, at that time you have to suggest some data points that you will use completion rate to recommend something to a user. You will use, let's say, persona. You will use if the user has liked or commented. So from both angles, right? Once you have completed this set towards the left, you go towards the right, towards your collected data, and then you draw some kind of insights. We'll do this in the second half of the session. It can be frequency, or it can be median, or the histogram, right? Or some kind of a non-linear weight, that 30% weightage to reels seen 6 months back, 20% weightage to uh, within first 5 months, and last 70% weightage or 60% weightage to last 1 month, right? For that time of the day. So this is where analytics kicks in, right? And then to get to go one step further, this is where the real power comes in, where you predict or you recommend that this guy will do this thing in the future. The recommendation, I believe, you will relate it more to when you do imagine a e-commerce company that these have been sales in the last 6 months. In the last 2 months, this has been the behavior. In the last month, this has been the behavior. This is what you predict in the next month, right? This is where the real power of analytics comes into picture, and this is where one of the branches of data analytics goes there, which is predictive analytics. We'll talk about it in a minute. But this is where a lot of things happen. The reason to predict, of course, because you need to have the inventory, right? Most important reason. If you don't have the inventory uh, handy, even if people want to order, it will be out of stock basically, right? And if you are able to predict, you can get the suppliers ready, you can get the appropriate number of delivery partners or riders ready, right? This city has like 100 orders per day, or this area has 100 orders per day. We need to get these things sorted out, right? We need at least three delivery partners जो every day deliver 20 orders, right? Assuming a delivery partner takes 30 to 40 minutes. So this is how the flow works. This is how things work. We start from a question, start from a problem statement, you list out data. Once you have listed out data, you collect that information. Once you have collected that information, then you'll finally analyze it and provide some insight to the user. So yeah, this is the flow, typical flow. We'll go back to the slides. So any decision that you take in general in life uh, is supported by data. Let's say you want to go to some restaurant today. You see that what are the reviews, images, type of food, etc. So there are some data points which you took into consideration, and then you took a decision. Let's say uh, I want to evaluate someone, that is that person a professional writer for articles. And let's say the person has written like this. Right? Uh, so there are two, three issues with this sentence, right? Can anyone tell me what issues are there? Is this person a professional writer or not? What issues are here in this sentence? Kind of issues.
Helping were missing.
Yeah, so basically grammar, I would say grammar. Yeah, grammar, then I am going to basically neutral, right? Then you have proper noun should be in capital letters, etc. Right? Now these are data points actually. You subconsciously thought, "Arey, this is wrong." But if you want to tell someone what things to check, you will say the proper noun should be, let's say Mumbai should be capital, New Delhi should be capital. Is this sentence forming sense or not? There should be a full stop. There should be I going doesn't work, I am going, etc. Right? And these are data points basically. These are very important. If you have used chat gpt, you need to tell chat gpt, okay, these are the points you need to evaluate this sentence on. Chat gpt already has its own point. This is their own trained data. Whatever books chat gpt has gone through, chat gpt has some kind of knowledge, right? But then it might happen that for your use case you won't require that knowledge, or you want to change things. So you say to ChatGPT that you have to evaluate this data on these data points or parameters, that grammar, proper noun, etc. So this is very important. If you are not clear with what kind of data you require for your problem statement, you can't use properly, in my opinion, LLMs as well, basically ChatGPT. And 80% of the time goes into this data thing, uh, forming a good, getting a good question, how is the data collection happening, cleaning the data, etc., etc. 80% of the time goes into that only, and in the 20% of the time you come up with an insight, right? So this is uh, example which we relate to. So let me go to the slide. Yeah. So data analytics is basically process of collecting, which we did, cleaning, analyzing, and interpreting the results basically, right? The final idea of data analytics is to take some raw data and give it into an actionable insight, right? Some decision. At the end of the day, that is what we care for, and everyone cares for, and that is what people are paying you money for, right? So from a data analyst point of view, or even a business analyst, or in general any person, right, you should always think that what is the question basically, can you rephrase the question and make that question better? At times people don't ask the question clearly, or at times the hypothesis is not very clear, right? So your job is to get that sorted out. That saves a lot of time towards the end result, right? If you ask a question that you want to know how many orders happen, right, for Flipkart during a day, so you need to collect data at an order level so that you can answer that question. If you collect data in some other fashion which is not related to question, you won't be able to arrive at that insight. This happens a lot more than you think of. It feels that इतना तो लोग नहीं करते होंगे गलती, but people do make mistakes. So yeah, so you have to collect, you have to clean it. I'll explain what is cleaning the data. Then you have to analyze it. I hope I have given some kind of idea that how we can analyze. There are different type of analysis. We'll go over through that, but some idea. And then you interpret the results and arrive at a key insight. So we define a question, then we collect the data. That's how we did for Instagram. Then we clean the data, then we analyze it, we interpret that okay, this is happening because of this. Generally, communication is not there. I've added it here, but and then you give a final decision. Communication generally happens with your stakeholder because let's say you've come to an interpretation that let's say today's month of Feb. Let's say in month of Feb, a lot of red dresses are getting sold, right? And then you discuss this with your stakeholder. Stakeholder maybe gives an insight. Yeah, this is Valentine's week. That is why this is happening, right? Something of that sort, right? So this is a very generic example, but in general, a lot of things are at very ground level. So yeah, just give me a second. I'll just switch on charger of my laptop.
The question says time down time. A well-defined question guides every step of the analytics process. Keep that in mind. Right question in mind, read the natural direction, data, analyze the data. Interpretation around that, and then this will lead you to make a right decision. Nice. Again, and this.
Whether you follow that page. Whether you follow that page also works. Someone wrote in the comment for the gym time. Feel free to actually voice it over. It's very difficult to go through the chat. Yeah. Let's go to the next part. There are four type of analytics. Just give me a second. Four types of analytics framework. One is descriptive. You can find it over the internet as well. But one is descriptive. One is diagnostic. Third one is predictive. Fourth one is prescriptive. So it starts from what happened, why did it happen, what will happen, what should we do about it, right? And this is how roles are more or less divided. Teams are more or less divided within a company, right? We'll start from one example and go towards another, right? What is descriptive, right? Descriptive is basically what happened. So it can be a simple question like, what were the sales for the last month, right? It was, let's say, $150,000. So for this, you require certain metrics, the kind of data that you require, right? It is revenue data. Then you sum it up. For every order, you require the revenue. What was the revenue or order value? Then you sum that order value across a time column because you need at a monthly level, right? Last month. So this is how you got data, and then you processed it, and then you gave something out of it. That the last month sales were 150K. Of course, you if someone asks for last 2 months, it will be a historical data. Segments and timelines is basically a trend of timelines which I was talking about. That this week it is, let's say, $100. Next week it is $200. Next week it is $1,000. Right. So this is what is descriptive analytics. Diagnostic is basically why did it happen, right? So imagine that restaurants on weekends, suddenly a restaurant which was doing great suddenly see a drop in revenue. A lot of people are not coming in the restaurant, right? Or so you would do basically some kind of root cause analysis. That okay, a lot of people are not coming. Is there some external factor which is there? Is there like Bharat Band or something of that sort, or is there people are not coming at a specific duration? People are coming in lunch during lunch, but they are not coming during night, or is it vice versa? Is it certain age group is not there? Are people not here, and so on and so forth, right? So there are a lot of analysis which happens here. A lot of RCA happens here, and this is what is asked in the interviews. That okay, actual interview question is this: that Flipkart has been seeing drop in orders month on month, right? Very open-ended question, month on month drop in orders, right? You need to analyze it. You need to figure out the solution for it. Uh, so generally, they say that you need to analyze the issue, and when you give solution, that this is how you can improve it. The Of course, this is what is called case study, and this is what the interview likes. Okay, this person is taking an effort towards solving that problem as well. Now, get to RCA, right? You need to form data. You need to have some data points. Okay, so let's talk about Flipkart example, right? I want to hear your thought process. What kind of data points will you check? If the question is, listen the question and feel free to ask the question, right? This is what is back and forth. You can ask, you can make that question more better, etc. The question is, Flipkart has been seeing drop in orders month on month. Uh, yeah, that's it. Analyze it. So what first, let's start from making the question slightly clearer, right? You have very less information. What kind of questions would you ask here?
So drops on which category?
Right.
So
So this is drops order. Okay, which category? Got it. Fair, fair point. But this is still one level down. At a very high level, we have to ask some questions. Drop orders. It can be like 50 orders to 49 orders. Yeah, it is drop in orders, right? That is how we won't. So you would ask something of percentage. Has there been a big drop in percentage month on month? Something of that sort.
From which cities?
Fair. This is towards RCA now, right? With cities, this is RCA. Question. You need to clear the question out that okay, there is drop in orders. Got it. What does it mean? Drop in orders. Uh, it should be significant of your time that you go and analyze that trend, right? If I say the orders were 100 and now it is, let's say, 99, there is a drop in orders, right? Would you go and analyze it? The answer is no. So the question that I formed, right, was very open-ended. Ideally, question should be asked, or you should have asked, or you should ask, what percentage is this happening seasonal? Is it seasonal drop, right? We are not doing any, we have not started this. We are just asking very high level questions. Is it happening every month? Is it seasonal drop? Is your competitor also facing it? Right? These are very high level questions. These are not Flipkart specific questions that which city. No, this is very high level. So let's assume that the problem is with only Flipkart, and let's say Flipkart has been seeing drop in orders month over month. 8% से drop हो रहा है. Let's say it started January 100K orders per month. Now we are in the month of June when we are analyzing it, and it has been dropping by 8% month over month. Right. Once you have better clarity on the question, okay, this is what is happening. It is not a seasonal drop. It is not that competitor is also facing the drop and we are also facing it. Assuming there is no national event or something which is going on, that we have to prefer some specific platform. Once you clear these things out, right? This is where question clear helps. Once you clear these things out, then you can say, okay, the problem might be with something related to Flipkart. So if you have to answer why these issues are happening, someone said categories that comes into RCA. So I'll write these things down here. Cities, I think. What other things do you think?
We
Right.
can ask which specific customer segment or the product categories are dropping month over month.
Which customer segment and product categories are dropping month over month? I'll write product categories, which is already here. Customer segment will be tricky. I'll just explain it in a minute. Uh, it's not that it's wrong, it's tricky to do it actually. Anything else?
Prices.
Hundreds of things there. Yeah, pricing.
Government
Flipkart
policies.
has. Could you please repeat?
Government policies.
Government policies, yeah, it might be there. There might be some change in government policies related to, let's say, taxes or related to delivery that you can't deliver. Let's say e-commerce platform can't deliver, do 10-minute delivery. Let's say government brings a law, right? So some kind of government law. True. Anything else? We have product categories.
Delivery charges.
Delivery charges, yes, that's possible.
Change
Customer
in the app itself.
experience.
Could you please repeat?
Customer experience.
Customer experience. ऐसे तो compared to Amazon it's bad only, but yeah, it's a fair point. Customer experience has been degrading month over month, which is resulting in drop in orders as well. But this needs to be validated.
No timely delivery.
Got it. SLA or SLA expectation not met. SLA is service level agreement, which is a common terminology which is used when you are in an e-commerce company. Basically, 3 days में आएगा order, 10 days में आएगा, etc. So SLA expectation being not met. Got it. Just one.
Patience.
Yeah. Could you please repeat?
Of competition.
Competition is having no changes, so there are no change in competition. That we confirmed when we were asking the question. So there is no seasonal issue, no competition, sudden changes, no national movement or anything of that kind. No, मतलब, should not say this, but no effect from Trump, etc. Right, over our products. So no Trump effects. I'll just write it that way.
Which Flipkart service has been specifically affected in terms of orders as grocery or minutes?
It, one of the great points that I've heard. Actually, this is very important. That is it minutes में order decrease हो रहा है or is it grocery, right? So this is what we call as level 1, and then you go granular. So you see things at the top and then you come down. So this is one of those example cities as well. Groceries wala is also that example. Cities reason being it is not actually cities. What we do is we call it as metro and non-metro. Because cities, there are a lot of cities, right? It's very difficult for us to practically go to every city and do that. We do that actually, but to quick numbers, we do this. That metro non-metro. What is this happening? Maybe I think someone told customer segment. Oh, yeah, we'll talk about this. In this plus or let's say I'll just use Amazon Prime as well as an example. So plus of Prime, right? So this is type of grocery or something else. Let's say minutes.
Minutes. I mean,
Yeah.
specifically
What
Flipkart service.
Right. So what kind of services Flipkart is providing, right? So you have to start at that space. The best place to start is open the app and check it out. Yeah, why orders are dropping? Is there some change in UI? Right. The UI is not that great. Uh, to be honest, a change in UI can drop 8% orders. It is possible. I've seen it. So even this thing, right? Change in user experience, how app is appearing. This is what changes thing. Now, what we'll stop here. Whatever we have listed out are basically data points, and we generally call this as hypothesis. These are some of the hypotheses that we have that these things have happened. Right now, every hypothesis has some kind of weight. By weight, I mean that if I tell you that okay, these are the hypotheses. Let's say I tell you that one of those has some issue. It's my answer. Okay, why 8% drop is happening. You won't ideally go and check everything, right? Starting set. You would prioritize some hypothesis over other hypothesis, right? Ideally, that should be your way because time is money. The more you delay, the more the company is losing on money, right? So you would, if you go towards certain hypothesis and you quickly get some information, that then you're okay. You say, okay, there are these data points that we have listed, these parameters that we have listed. Three of the parameters I'm prioritizing this because of XYZ reasons. We'll talk about it, how we go there. Generally, to prioritize something, generally it comes from industry experience or talking to folks, uh, business, or talking to the customer itself, right? Why you're not ordering, etc., or what is happening. It can so happen that new users are not coming to the platform. This is very well possible. I'm not sure if you know, Amex, American Express, was not allowed to bring new users in India till they shifted their data center, which we'll talk about in a minute, uh, to India. Data center is basically where you store all the data. So I'll show that in a minute, show that in some time. But yeah, so these are what we call as some data points, also sometimes hypothesis. Yeah,
Can subscription features or promises are not met can be the cause, like for Amazon Basic we have a delivery subscription where they deliver fast in just 1 day, but if we see most of the orders there is no fast delivery even if I have taken the subscription.
got it. Yeah, fair point. Yes, yes. Promise not being met. Basically, SL expectation is not being met. So, fair point, friends. So this is what we call as hypothesis. These are a hypothesis, right? Now, within this hypothesis, there are some, you see some things, right? When you talk about pricing, pricing is very generic word. If I tell you, yeah, is there some change in pricing? Then you're like, okay, pricing, I have to check. How are you going to check pricing? What to see in metro, non-metro, right? What data points will you see in metro and non-metro? Are you just going to see order, or are you going to see product categories, cross orders, right? Pricing, how are you going to make sense out of pricing, right? So you need to form some data points here that, okay, I'll see products, and just giving an example here. Last month, I'll see that how many products were ordered between 200 to 400 range, and this month how many order between 200 to 400 range, and I'll do this price point analysis. 200 to 400, 400 to 600, this actually happens. 600 to 800, 800 to 1000 plus, etc., right? And then I'll see which price point has been getting less orders. Is it across all the price point, or it is some specific price point? This actually happened in, I'm not sure if you know Shopsy, which was, or which is a competitor to Misho. Misho and Shopsy of basically operate at a very low price points. The price points are very low. They try to sell things at 200 number of quantity, etc. So these we do analyze things at a price point level at these stages, right? So once you have some hypothesis, you for those hypotheses you need to think what kind of data are you going to capture so that you will validate something, right? Your hypothesis. So thinking parameters, right? Thinking what data points to capture. This thing, right? This thing is like I would say like godlike thing. Like it's very difficult to do these things. This is very important. Very like P0. If you can't do this, it's very difficult. A lot of product managers don't do it. A lot of managers in general don't do it properly, right? They don't know how to reach a hypothesis. Even if they have reached a hypothesis, what kind of data points will you look at? I just gave an example for pricing 200 to 400, 400 to 600. We'll form some buckets, right? So these things, it's not that you can learn it as you are learning things, right? If someone asks some questions or question anything in your daily life, how would you check this out? How would you check this out? How would I check the quality of the product? Right? Very open question. You can see your products which are being ordered are of lesser quality right now, right? Let's say I ask you guys this question. Someone said customer experience, right? So the customer experience, the hypothesis is the customer experience has been bad, hence the order has been going, the percentage of orders are going down, right? uh, how would you, what kind of data point would you see here? Customer experience is bad.
If
It,
the return of the product is, the return rate is more, then there's an issue with the quality, and hence they are not satisfied with the service.
so return, I would say returns is higher, and I'll just add one point that we have reason of return as well. So we analyzed it as a reason of return. Anything else? Customer service. It can happen that products are not being written.
Yeah,
That
customer
can
So
also
rating.
customer rating.
awesome. Customer rating, right? Uh, so customer rating, yeah. So let me ask you a question. Great point, customer rating. Um, Whenever we order a product, right, we see ratings. So it has 10,000 ratings or something. So if you're seeing a drop in orders, right, which time frame customer rating will you see?
The newest. Recent.
Recent ones.
Okay. So recent ones. Got it. Got it. Uh, Anyone else? Any other thought process? We started our journey from January to let's say June. Orders are dropping from January onwards.
I
Um,
think the one which are good reviews or ratings.
okay. Uh, Good reviews or ratings, right?
Where's we should see, right, to identify the problem.
Could you please be louder? I couldn't hear you.
I mean, we should look at the bad reviews instead of good reviews. If we have to check why they are dropping off, what problem they are facing instead of good. I feel.
Right. Right. Fair reasoning, right? Fair reasoning that returns is higher, customer rating has been dropping. Ideally, uh, you just can't see bad ratings directly. Reason for that is you don't know is that bad. If the product earlier was getting 2 star and now also it is getting 2 star, it is not bad actually. It is the same trend line. So you need to take this data. This is where it comes into picture that you'll say, okay, I'll take ratings from September to, let's say I'm just giving an example here, September to December, and I'll take ratings of the product which are 4 star, which are good reviews or good ratings, and I'll see in Jan to June what kind of ratings are. Let's say this went to 2.2, right? So now you can know, okay, this is something. There is some issue here. It might be with the quality. It might be there is something going on here. But this is how you can prioritize a product, right? So this is basically data analytics, right? Okay, you are going back in time. When we define data points, it is good. defining data point is first step to go. But then doing analysis, right? You need to think from every angle, because if you just analyze bad ratings, it won't give you anything. There is a product which is already bad. Well, I can get you thousands of products which are getting 1 star rating, so that won't change anything, right? There are other things as well. Seller, uh, I'm not sure if you know, Cloudtail seller is there, that has changed, etc. That can also cause some issues. But yeah, this is great discussion. So this is what we call as hypothesis testing. I'll just explain two more things here. It is just not this. So bear with me. We'll go more in detail in the second session. But I just want to remember this part. We'll use it while I'm explaining that. Cool. In the interest of time, I'll just go ahead and explain. Yeah. So there is something called as predictive analysis. Now, what will happen basically is, once you have analyzed things in the past, once you know things in the past, now if I ask you the question that, okay, this has been dropping, we'll take the previous example only. It has been dropping month over month. Next month, what will be the drop, right? For that, you will require some historical data, some statistical models, some trend patterns, some seasonality effect. Was it autumn, winter, rainy, etc., etc., right? And that is where prediction comes into picture. So there is a different role together which is called predictive analysis. Generally, this is done by teams which are towards supply chain, or people who are ordering a lot of products, right? So towards inventory management, right? At these two places, a lot of these things happen. It also, of course, happens at pricing, but in general, I'm just giving an idea. Um, Now, this is where the fourth type is what should we do, right? Prescriptive. So imagine the issue came out to be pricing, right? So if you change the pricing, uh, you need to give some number to the company that, okay, if you drop the prices by let's say 20%, again very open-ended statement, drop the prices by 20% of what, which category, for whom, etc. But let's keep it open-ended right now. If you drop the prices by 20%, you will have the uh, well, orders will be uh, back to at its normal pace, right? So this is where things come into picture. So you need to optimize a lot of things. You need to see the predictive models as well. You need to change the numbers. You need to see historically, was there at this price people were buying products. Kya? So you can expect, okay, historically people were buying this product by this margin, 20% margin or whatever it is, and then you can take a hit on margin and sell it at the same price. You can do some kind of things like that, right? So this is the four branches. Uh, so one is what happened, why did it happen, what will happen, and what should we do. The reason for explaining this is because people use it. Uh, in my opinion, organization, I have never used it except teaching it to you guys. But people over Coursera or YouTube, etc., have this. I don't know. They like to use these terms and to teach. But in general, right, these things don't matter. It is the second column. Why, what is happening, where should, what should we do, etc. So descriptive, it's more towards reporting, dashboards. Reporting and dashboards will take Flipkart's case. We used to see at a daily basis what orders, how many orders are happening, how many people are coming, what is the monthly active user base, how many new customers are coming, etc., etc. Right. Now, whatever you see in the dashboard is aggregated, as I told you, right? If you remember the reel example, reel 1, reel 2, reel 3, we do some kind of aggregation, be it average, be it mean, be it median, be it mode. I'll explain all these things in the second session, what is these things. But you do summation of these things, etc. You aggregate the data in some form or shape to get a final number. Um, Diagnostic is basically RCA, correlations, etc. This happened because of this, etc. Predictive is basically towards forecasting or time series or regression type of analysis, right? Prescriptive is basically what should we do now, right? Optimization, A/B testing. Sorry, yeah, A/B testing. Now, A/B testing is basically uh, simulation, optimization, and decision models, right? I'll explain this part because this is what goes into major of the top firms: Flipkart, Amazon, Microsoft, Netflix, anything that you can think of. So I'll explain what is A/B testing. So how things start basically is uh, we start with a hypothesis. We start with a hypothesis. The hypothesis can be anything. It can be like let's say the Flipkart app, right? If I open the Flipkart app, the buy now button should be in, let's say, red color, and the font should be in white color. This is a hypothesis. We don't know, uh, but this is the hypothesis. And the hypothesis start with people. If we keep it red color, people feel like urgency. This is through some research study, and it will result into more orders, right? So there is some kind of change which we talked about on UI. Hypothesis can be anything. So change on UI, and the hypothesis that it will lead to increase in orders, right? Now this is a hypothesis. We don't know if it is true or not. That's fine, right? So what we do is we for this hypothesis we define certain metrics. We'll talk about metrics maybe in second session, but metrics are basically one was like completion rate, right? Or one is conversion rate. If 100 people are coming, how many of them are ordering, right? This is conversion rate. So metrics are formed through data points itself. So data point can be number of people who are coming to platform and number of people who ordered, right? These are two data points. We are taking ratio of these two data points to get to a metric or a number. So what happens in A/B testing is you form list out certain data points, then you form certain metrics, and you analyze those metrics. So a lot of top companies have this ability to show one version of the website or an app to some users and a different version to different users.
What is called A/B
So
testing?
let's say the cohort is of 40 people right now. It is possible that 10 people, which we call as control set, this is the test set. So 10 people will see the older version, which is the, let's say, orange uh, background, and the other 10 folks would see the red background. It is possible to do that, of course. These numbers are very, very high, and the rest 20% folks are the rest of the population. Rest of population. So we have the capability to run experiment only on these two cohorts. The advantage here is that let's say this is doing very bad, I'm not impacting a lot of users. That is one. Second, I can control the time which I'm running this. I can do this for 2 weeks or 1 week. I can get some results out, right? If it is doing very good, I'll compare it with this cohort and then we'll make it live for everyone, right? So that is the idea of A/B testing. Uh, someone has a question? All right. Yeah, so that is the idea of A/B testing. The reason why we call it as A/B testing, it is because of this. So there is two buckets, A and B. The A bucket is your control version or the version which is live right now, and you have B bucket, which is the test variant. This is what is famously known as. Sometimes, of course, C is also there, which is test two. Someone gives a hypothesis that blue color is good, right? You put 10 people here. So you compare this with this and this with this. So this is how things happen. This is how uh, launches happen, right? So anything or every change that you do, at least in UI in companies like Flipkart, Amazon, etc., go through a A/B test. Even the change that you see about minutes or grocery went through an A/B test. At times, even it can happen that results might be negative. So at times, let's say this is a true story. When we in Flipkart, if you see minutes opens first right now. I'm not sure if it is live or not, but it was live I think last month. That if you open Flipkart, you go to minutes first. Now what happened is when we analyzed the orders, we saw that there is a drop in orders in the normal Flipkart, which is not minute, right? Normal service. So this is also used to quantify the loss that you are going to incur, because sometimes decision happen from top down. There is pressure on leadership to grow minutes to some X volume, and they are okay with 100 crores of loss or 200 crores of loss, etc. If they are fine with these things, uh, but at the end of the day, you should know that what loss are you going to incur, right? Because in future, that is required for different analysis. So you come up and say that okay, 200 crore loss has happened because of this feature on a monthly basis. 200 is also a very less number. It is 1000K plus. But yeah, it is about 1000 crores. So this is how things happen, and this is what is A/B test. You start from a hypothesis, you get some data points, you form some metrics, you check those metrics on both the versions A and B, and compare, see if it is good. If it is good, then great. If it is bad, then okay, you don't take that experience. Like, you go to the slide.
I have
Yeah,
a question like how do they select which one gonna be our test users and
got it. So this is where more data points come into picture, right? So ideally, when you want to compare two sets of bucket, you want to randomize these users as much as possible. What I mean by that is, agar, for an example, if there are 50% metro people in this cohort, I want 50% metro people in this cohort as well. If there are 20% from plus users of 20% are prime users, I want 20% prime users as well. So if I ask you this question, you guys, if there is a user, on what data points would you randomize? All of these things you need to think actually. This is your uh, thing only. And then you will do data analytics. So what do you think you need to randomize? What points of users you require? I'll just give you an example: metro user or non-metro user. And let me just give a difficult example as well: affluent customer. Affluence, basically high value and low value. Let's say this, there are two types of customer. High value is basically someone who's ordering more, right? So I want that person equally in both the buckets, right? So when I'm randomizing users, I'll keep into consideration, okay, I have to randomize it basis city, like metro, equal number should be there. Affluent customers, equal number should be there. Low affluence customer, equal number should be there. Any other data point that you can think of, which I should take into consideration while randomizing users into two buckets?
Age.
Yes, age. I'll keep it as demographics. Uh, age is the right answer. That you ideally want 15, say 25, whatever the number of people are there, almost same in both the buckets. Um, of
Maybe
course.
repeating order customers or repeating customers.
Uh, True. Yes, we keep that as well. So I'll say that as loyal user base, something of that sort, uh, or repeating. I'll just write that as well. Male and female. There are a lot of things actually. You can think of a lot of things. Then there is prime user or not. There are a lot of data points actually. So actual randomization happens like this only. Sometimes you randomize on certain data points like these, or you do direct randomization that we don't know. We are directly there is user one, user two. Uh, give have user like I need 50 people here. Sorry, I need 50 million people here, 50 million people here. Randomize it through some algorithm, right? In Python, there is a function called as np.random. I'm assuming you have not learned Python. So there is a function called as random. You can use that. Or in Excel, there is something called as which gives a random number between 0 and 1, right? Or you can get so that generates random number between 1 to 10. So that is how it happens, right? So these are data points which are required, and then this happens. So one thing which we realize is insight. If the number of people is very high, you can skip this thing here. Uh, by skipping, I means that if the number of people in both the cohorts, let's say here it is 10 million requirement, and here also it is 10 million requirement. If you do direct randomization, you would still end up having equal proportion of users in both the buckets. Crazy insight, but yeah. But if the number of people go down, uh, this might start getting skewed, etc. So yeah. Cool.
I have a doubt. So
Yeah.
how the A/B testing will done? So in
How?
full content, how it will be done? How it will be done? So
How it will be done? Okay.
yeah. So my idea is, for example, 10 10x customer on A and 10x customer on B.
Okay.
So one will be using latest UI versions of Flipkart. Another one is using the oldest version of Flipkart.
Yes.
So they track the order between the latest one and the old one. So this is the A/B testing occurs.
Yes. So it doesn't happen at the order level. It happens at an account level actually. So you as a user, right? You as a person, you can imagine I'm putting you in this bucket and I'm going into this bucket. The reason for that is uh, you might have multiple devices as well. So I want to give you the same experience across different accounts or platforms. So what happens is we analyze journey of the people who are there. Let's say in this case your journey. We'll see how many orders you have placed, how many orders everyone has placed, right? Because that the reason for this is there is some user who is of the same characteristic as you, similar to you, right? If let's say I'm just writing names here, Deepika or Anshul. There is some like mirror image here, Ansh 2 or Deepika 2, right? Which have almost same characteristics. The only change that is there is in the UI. Everything is same. The city is same. Uh, a lot of things are same basically. Everything is same. So the only change is or only difference is in the UI. And that's how we say that okay, if these people were ordering, let's say, uh, 1 million, these are the number of orders, and these are the number of people. And this is basically 1 by 10. So I'm just directly writing 10%. And let's say this changed to 10.1%. Huge change. This is a very huge change. Point one is very, very huge. Uh, I need to change this. Right? So I've basically subtracted this and taken division of this. So this is a very huge change, right? 1% increase in orders. So that's how we compare because we say that the only difference between the two cohorts is the UI difference. There's everything except that is same. I hope I was able to answer your question.
Yeah.
We'll move to the next part. Let me fill in my screen. So there are different types of data. this I think you might have learned earlier as well. One is quantitative, numeric. The second one is qualitative. Now, people define quantitative also in two types. One is discrete. The second one is continuous. What does discrete mean? Is basically number of orders. These are countable, distinct values, right? They can't be fraction. These are discrete values. Continuous, on the other hand, let's say if you have a range, just give me a second. This is irritating. Yeah, let's say you have a range, right? Between 0 to 1, or I want to see what is the average height of a population, right? Now, a person can take all sorts of height, like 167 centimeter, or 167.1 centimeter, or 167.2 centimeter, and so on and so forth, right? So it has infinite values within that range. You can't have 1.25 orders, you can't have 1.35 orders. That doesn't work, right? That is discrete. So there are two types of variables. One is discrete, one is continuous. You might have learned during your plus one, plus two. If not, then this is it, right? It is just numbers. Some numbers will be continuous. They can take any value. If I tell you revenue between 0 and 1,000, so you can have revenue of 999 something of that sort, right? But if I count the number of people, so it is 1, 2, 3. It can't be 1.3725, etc. Except jokes, but yeah, it can't be that. So this is what is quantitative. I'll go to something what we call as qualitative, right? Um, Qualitatives, I basically understand it in this fashion that it is not numbers, it is categorical, right? Now they define it in two forms. One is nominal and one is ordinal. I'll explain what is nominal. Uh, Nominals are basically categories which don't have any order or any ranking, right? Uh, let's say gender, male, female, or country, US, UK, Canada, India. On the other hand, ordinal are something with more meaningful sequences like rating 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, poor to excellent, right? Or size, small, medium, XL, double XL, and so on and so forth. Or education, right? You have some or the other kind of order associated with it. So there are different types of data points that you can collect. Those data points can be categorized into two parts. One is qualitative, one is quantitative. And within quantitative, the numbers can be divided or categorized into two parts. One is discrete, the other one is um, continuous. And in qualitative, you can have categories which are nominal or ordinal, right? So yeah, this is there. Just give me a second. I think yeah, we'll take a minute's break, and then I'll share an example. We'll go through that example, and yeah, so just a minute. We'll pause for a minute, and then we'll start again. I'm just thinking some things. I'm just thinking of a question actually. So let's do this question, and towards the second session we'll do the analysis part of it actually. Right now we are just creating the data point and creating that table, uh, and towards the second session we would do analysis on it, right? Some kind of average, some kind of mean, those kind of things. Yeah. ठीक है. Mm-hmm. Mm, let's start with the easy question first, then we'll go towards the harder one. Got it. Cool. So let's imagine you are logging in for the first time, right? On Zomato, or Swiggy, doesn't matter. Any food delivery company, basically. What kind of information will Zomato and Swiggy store from you? What kind of data points do you think should be stored from you? Right. So this is the question. The scenario is when you're logging in for the first time. Like you have just logged in. We are talking about that time, not after that. You have not placed any orders. Just to clarify. Yes. Ping in chat. Chat is also open now. Or you can voice.
Location.
Location. Yeah. So contact will be first actually.
Mail ID.
Could you please repeat?
Mail ID.
Okay, email ID. Got it.
Name.
Yeah. Name,
Age also, right?
age as well.
And then
Yeah.
preferences of restaurants or cuisines.
Good point actually. Currently they do ask for preferences. Uh, column names. So I'm just writing some fields are optional. You don't need to fill them actually. Uh, Similarly, preferences, right? A good point because that's how they can give you a better recommendation. Uh, so this is also optional. There are a lot of fields which are optional. I don't remember whether I think start location is optional. I'm not sure. Anyway, anything else that you can think of?
Address.
Address, let's say it is sort of towards location. You don't do it at the time of login. Not necessary that you have to do it. Or maybe if you are doing it, maybe towards location. Anything else?
Preferring like vegetarian food or non-vegetarian, I guess.
I am not sure if they've started to do it at the start while they log in. If you ask me, I won't do that. Reason for that is I don't want a lot of things to be asked at the start. It creates a lot of friction. That's why a lot of companies. Yeah, I'm not sure if you guys know. You must have seen, right? If let me just switch on Flipkart. If I'm not logged in, that will be great. Yeah. So earlier, if I now click on login, earlier it was more towards email and password. Now, a lot of apps, a lot of platforms directly start with mobile number and request OTP, right? Uh, so that is something which helps for easier login. It doesn't have a lot of friction. You don't have to include a lot of detail, right? अच्छा now OTP won't be the answer because OTP is one time password. वो change हो जाएगा. It won't be there, right? It is one time password by definition. So if we want some information which is static, which we can use in future.
Device
Gender is
type.
Gender. Yeah.
great information. Yeah, gender is a yeah. Date of birth is also used actually for some kind of offerings if they come up with.
Anniversaries. Yeah.
Device
Yeah.
attribute.
Can we say notifications?
Notifications would be, I think, would come under permissions, I believe. It won't be
Yes.
captured into login. So while you're logging in, it won't be captured into database. I would say it is a different field together, not the ones that we are looking right now. Android Web, iOS, True Platform Login. Uh, Not necessary. We'll talk about this.
Maybe the payment setup thing.
Payment method, true. If you ask me, I won't ask you in the start. Add a payment method. Reason being is you don't want someone to add credit card when they log in, right? Imagine like you're
Yeah.
using Flipkart or I'll use Flipkart. नहीं पूछोगे आप OTP डाल के you directly show the platform, keep the person engaged in the platform, right? So not necessary. Fair points actually, right? So this is how columns are created, and this is what we call as uh, not customer table but user table. In this, a lot more information is also selected, which is time of account opening, which is timestamp, basically month, etc. is also here. The reason for this is you want to analyze users who are opening new accounts or whatever accounts month on month, right? So month on month, you have to see these things here. How many new accounts are being opening, right? Is it static? What is happening, right? Because we are logging in for the first time. So some kind of these things are also tracked on this basis. Now this is what we call as user table, and we'll create one more table, two more tables, and then I'll explain how all the tools come into picture, how SQL comes into picture, how Python comes into picture, etc. So this is the user table. There are of course some more information, but we'll skip that for now. Uh, let's imagine. Let me just hide everything. Uh, there is one important thing actually which is captured, which we have not covered, is there is something called as a primary key or account ID or user ID, because we have labeled it as user table. The idea of user ID is there are a lot of privacy concerns with name, phone number, etc. data, right? But you have to tag some things to something. Either you tag all of this to name, you tag something to name. So what happens? You have something called as a user ID, which has that information. And okay, if I give you this user ID, you can identify what is the name of the user, what is the contact details of the user, right? We actually don't give this information. This is PII information. This is not given or not shown to a lot of people in the company. It is shown to specific folks in the company. This comes under PII information. This is not like PII. You can get this at an aggregation level, right? Question to you now is, now people are ordering the uh, okay, we'll just complete it. This is customer point of view. There are two more parties involved when you do use a food delivery platform. The second party is the restaurant, and the third party is the rider or delivery person, right? They have their own information. A restaurant would have, of course, contact details, merchant name, area. Merchant name is basically Domino's Pizza, but Domino's Pizza can be in different areas as well, right? So you have owners' names as well there. Then you have inventory, right? You have food items, list of items, what kind of pizza they are offering, or what kind of desserts they are offering, etc. Similarly, there is some table for riders table. So there are three tables which are there. Okay. We are focusing right now on just one table. Question to you guys is, if a person is placing orders now, what information should be tracked by Zomato when the order has been placed?
Time.
Order value.
So I'll create the table, how it actually looks into the database. So you said order value. These things generally come in column actually. So you have order value. Okay. This is
Time
order.
Alright,
step.
time.
Create
Order.
send date.
Delivery
Location,
address,
location,
address of the order.
Location, order time, location, order value. Anything else that you said? Okay.
Address where the order needs to be delivered. Okay.
Let's say it is covered in location. Anything else?
Which
Amount.
customer is doing the order or
Order
customer?
ID.
Mm,
Right. So user ID, which user is doing. Let's say this is user.
Order ID.
Order ID.
merchant or restaurant name.
Merchant or restaurant name. Okay. Fair.
Any feedback
Anything else?
or instructions you are providing to the restaurant.
Could you please repeat louder?
Any feedback or instructions you are providing to the restaurant.
Yes. Feedback or instructions. Okay. Fair. So many important things we have missed. So many. Crazy. Think about it. Return of order. Uh, we have
Yes.
a status
Resident
symbol.
type.
Payment.
Mode of
Writer tip
payment.
or donation.
Dietary preference.
Okay. The delivery time. Okay. Okay. Return of order. Okay. Got it. I'll stop. We'll stop here. There is a lot of major important things we are missing here. Payment status, right? Imagine from order table perspective, right? What you are ordering also matters, right? What you have ordered. Have you ordered? Uh, I don't know, yeah. Some Italian cuisine or imagine Flipkart, right? Is it phone, lifestyle, etc., etc. Is it fashion? So these things also matter. I want to distance between merchant and user. Okay, okay. So I want to just teach an important concept here. Um, there are different tables for different purposes, right? Now, if you ask me, there would be, of course, some kind of category or product category. I'll just write it here. If you ask me, right, generally the company, I'm just talking about the company cares about a lot of limited information. So when we talk about company, it is like 100 folks. So 100 folks generally care about what is the revenue, right? So all of us care about the order value, but 10% folks care about what is, let's say, delivery time or SLA, etc., distance between merchant and user. So we'll call this as supply chain team, right? This then 10% folks are towards variety of restaurants which are being used for ordering. You can get it from this column, merchant or restaurant, right? What kind of variety is it there? Is it same? Then 10% of users are more towards location. Reason for that is this will actually come here only.
Marketing.
Uh, People are ordering from far away. That's why you need to set up a different restaurant or you need to go and get a new restaurant under Swiggy, right? So there are different people who like or who want uh, different things. So their KPIs or their key performance indicators, KPI full form, are different. So that company is evaluated on those KPIs. So that's how it works. There are like 50 companies at the bottom. One is pricing team, one is supply chain, one is growth hacks, one is ads, etc. Everyone is given some or the other kind of task, and that task they try to achieve those tasks, and through those tasks, the complete funnel, the revenue in this case, tries to go up, right? So that is how it works. So every team doesn't have to go through this table, right? It will be very redundant to go through like 100 columns. There are so many things which we can add on. We have not added, like the quantity, kind of items, uh, etc., which are being ordered, right? Then there is something called a status, right? Is this order delivered or not? Is this order uh,
Cancelled.
like in the preparation stage, etc., right? Now, there are a lot of things, right, which are there. So, what happens is there are hence different tables created, and hence different keys are created. An example of a key is user ID, because now, let's say, if we have just these columns, I can use user ID and I can see that, okay, we had the user ID table as well, right? User one, what were these details? And then I'll get, okay, we have date of birth. Okay, this person is from age 15 to 20. Right. So if I need that information, I'll go this and join this table. I'll do a VLOOKUP or I'll search through it and then get these details. Now, the details in SQL come through joins. There is something called as joins. I'm assuming you have no clue what is SQL, what is SQL. I'm assuming you don't know what is Excel. Excel, there is something called as VLOOKUP. So you can directly go here. So there will be a row name as U1, 15 to 20 age, male. Let's say Ujjwal is the name. Ujjwal Ranka. And then we have email ID at the gmail.com, right? So what happens is I search for U1. Okay, U1 is this is happening. I search for U1, and then I get okay U1 1520H. So this kind of operation, right? If there are a lot of rows, there are millions of rows. This happens in SQL, which is some tool which you will learn, or you can use Excel as well. Excel is good for 5 million rows right now, but this is how new tools come into picture, right? This is how things happen. So you create data points. You have data labels. Okay, these are the data points that we require, and these will be the keys. This is called as a primary key, or this is called as a joining key, whatever you want to call it. So this will
दिखना
be
शायद
user. So
तार
there
धो
will
रहा
be a
है
different
बाद
table
में धोना.
for uh, different table for delivery thing, right? So there will be a delivery table which will have order ID, and it will have, let's say, user ID as well, but it won't have order value. It won't have items information. It won't have merchant information. It will have some other information. So there is a delivery table or supply chain table which is different. So I'll take a pause here. What I wanted to explain is there are different tables which are created for each and every purpose, right? And basis these tables, you create some columns which are data basically, and you capture those data fields here. Uh, Idea is to not capture everything together because it is not optimized way to get things. You have small tables, and then you do some kind of joins, some kind of analysis over two tables to get what you want. That is how insight happens. So what happens, right? Once you are clear with what kind of data you want to capture, with what kind of information you want to capture, once you have the table form, that table uh, goes or sits in a database basically. So which we call as DB database. Right? You might have heard of data centers. That is a place where data sits basically. So you can imagine a lot of computers there. And when I talked about Amex example, right, American Express, India's law were that Indian financial data should sit in India. So all the information that we're capturing right now here, right, should sit in India in some computer which is in India, not in US, right? So this is what it is. This is how we create a table, and once we have created the table, we get a lot of call. We'll get a lot of rows here, right? U1, U2, U3, etc. And then we do analysis on these rows in the next session. So yeah, that's it for now for this session. We'll talk about correlation causation in the next session. We'll talk about some statistics. We'll start from basic statistics. What is mean? What is median? What is percentile? Uh, Something related to probability also. And then we'll go towards the next session. Got it. We have a mix variety as per my counting. That's great. I'll start from basics. Just give me a minute. We'll wait for a minute and then we'll start. I believe folks are still joining in. We'll wait for a minute and then we'll start at 2:05. I'll start by presenting my screen. Just give me a second. Let me know if my screen is visible. And uh, I'll start the recording as well. Yeah. Is the screen visible? Anyone from the chat? Yeah. Okay. Got it. Got it. Switch on the recording.
Recording in progress.
Hi. So in the earlier session, we learned about capturing of data, how data is being captured, uh, something related to hypothesis testing, the life cycle of data collection. Basically, you have, you go to the requirement, you go to the problem statement, and then you, basis the question, you basically form, you define the question better. From that, you collect the data, and then you clean it up, then you analyze it, then you interpret, and so on and so forth, right? So that is that. Um, the collection part, as I said, is not with you. It will be done by someone else. You can imagine a scenario where, let's say, census data, right? People come at your home to take data about your family, etc. Right? So it will be done by someone else or some other form or shape. For digital instrument, it is done through engineering team, or there are certain tools for it, which is uh, there are called as basically product analytics tool, right? So Google Analytics or something of that sort, Mixpanel, Adobe Analytics. They also track data. So you don't need to do, you just need to define events and they'll capture data for you. So they will collect the data and then you can do the cleaning, analyzing, and interpretation process. So going forward, let me skip this. Yeah. So we'll start from something which is something we learned, uh, I think, towards first to 10th and then maybe 11th, 12th, but we don't typically use this a lot, right? But yeah, so these are called as measures of central tendency. So this gives you a typical value, which is sort of your center of your data, right? So there are three popular measures. One is the mean, second is the median, third is the mode. Mean is also known as the arithmetic average. There are different types of averages, harmonic and geometric. The general uh, across industry, it is the arithmetic mean, unless until specified, right? So we'll start defining some things: the mean, the median, the average, and then we will do some kind of questions, right? So imagine a scenario that there are five students, there are four students, right? Let me just switch on my camera as well. Yeah, yeah. So let's imagine there are four students, and these four students out of 100 have got the scores of 40, 45, 42, 48, right? Now, the idea of arithmetic mean or average is basically you add all the numbers or your data points and divide by the number of elements. In this case, it is four, or number of data points. So you basically do a summation of this. So I'm using Google Sheets. I have to assume actually that you don't know Excel or you don't know Google Sheet, um, because it's an introductory lecture. So there are some formulas that you can directly apply in Google Sheet. You can directly click on sum and select these rows, and you'll get the sum of all these numbers. Right? Similarly, we know the number, so it is 4, the number of elements. So this divided by this is 43.75. So this is your mean. This is numerator and denominator. Numerator, right? So mean is often denoted by x bar. There is a bar above x. Since it's not possible in math right now, so I'll write it like this, or maybe like this. Yeah, x dash. And the numerator is basically sum of all these values. Now it is 40 plus 45 plus 42 plus 48, and it can be different values. So it is generally written as x1 plus x2 plus x3 plus x4, right? There are four values. And the denominator is the number of data points. So that is in this case, it is four, right? So this is the formula for mean. Uh, Now, if I include a bigger value, let's say the paper was out of 200, and there's one student who has got a score of 150, right? And now if I include this in the calculations, so I'll just change this to C5. So I need to add everything up and divide it by 4. So you can see the average, which was earlier 43.74, went up to 81.25, right? We typically call this value as something called as an outlier. Outlier, basically, your data sits somewhere, rest of the data points are somewhere, but there is one value, there is someone, in this case, the student, who is like outlier, right? Who is at one of the extremes. It can so happen that you can have, of course, you can have outliers in both the directions. In this case, it is towards the top score. You can have zero as well as the score, right? So you can have outliers in both the directions. Now, this is basically all these areas are where you come into play, right? Now, someone has collected data for you, right? Uh, your data would have duplicate values. Your data would have missing values. Your data would have some wrong values. Your data would also have outliers, etc. Right? There would be no values. You might need to fill some values in, right? Or there are some errors itself. So the data cleaning process, right, is something that needs to be handled, and this is the place where 50 to 80% of the time goes typically of a data analyst or a data scientist or a business analyst. It doesn't matter. Cleaning the data takes a lot of time, right? So we'll do an exercise later, but I just wanted to show you, right? So if I see these numbers, right, 40, 45, 42, 48, and let's imagine this is not here. I know that these numbers are towards the earlier average, which is 43.75. So the data or the class is towards the score of 43. So I can get some kind of a center from these numbers, right? At the moment I have 150, I can't say the mean is the center right now because I know other students are getting scored towards 40. So the data is sort of skewed or the data has an outlier, right? This is first measure of central tendency. I'll explain others as well. This you typically do with, let's say, you go out with your friend, right? And you do split wise, or you split the bills among you, right? You are basically doing an average, right? You take all the bills. So let's say you ate something, you ate second item, third item, fourth item, and then you do an average, right? Assuming everyone's proportion is similar. So everyone is going the same amount. If that is the case, that number will be this, right? So this is something that you do on a daily basis. There is some second example, right, which we call as median. So this is median. Now median is the middle value of the data. Median is the middle value of the data when you sort the data out. Sorting means ascending or descending order, and it splits the data set into two halves, right? So that's the middle value, and it is going to split the data set into two halves. So we go to the sheet again. We go to the student score. We have these scores, right? We'll just sort it out. We'll start with the lowest score. I'm writing it manually. We can use a function. Typically, in a original setting, you will be using a function to sort things out in Python or in Excel, anywhere. It doesn't matter. So I'll just write it down. So let's say first is 40, 42, 45, 45, 48, and let's say 150, right? Now the middle value is 45. So the median is 45. If you note, the outlier is not affecting the center. I can have here 1,000, 10,000. It is not affecting the center, which is the median. Through uh, this calculation, we get this number. It can, of course, happen that you have six values. So I'll just change this number. It can happen that you have six values, right? When the number is even or when the data points are even in nature, you will go and calculate these two values and do an average of that, right? So when things are odd, when it is odd, you did n plus 1 by 2. N is the number of data points. In this case, earlier original case, it was 5. So 5 plus 1, 6. 6 by 2 is 3. So we picked 45, right, as median. But when n is even, or if there are even entries, you would have, you would go to the middle value. Let's say this is n3 plus n4 by 2, right? That would be your median when n is a even number. N equals even. I'll just change it to x since we used x for k. So when n is even, that will be your median. So in this case, it is 45 plus 48, that is 93, divided by 2. That will be the median basically. Right? Yeah. So this is one. This is what we call as median. We'll go to something called as mode. Let me zoom out a bit. I know these things you might have learned earlier as well, but it's very important to go through it. Right? Um, what- right? Let's say we have scores like this. The students have scores in this form, right? Now, mode is basically you will pick that value which is occurring the most number of times. The frequency for that value is high. So in this case, if you see, 40 is occurring one time and 45 is again one time. But sorry, 45 is two times, right? So 45 is occurring two times in the data set. So mode is basically the highest occurring value, basically the frequency, right? If you draw a histogram, it is that value. So the most frequently occurring value in the data set, right? It can happen that you have multiple values which are occurring most of, right? So it can happen that you have two 40s and two 45s. So in this case, there are two modes. It is also called as bimodal or two modes, right? So you can have a single mode, which I just showed earlier. You just have one value which is occurring uh, multiple times, which is 45. You can have two modes. You can also have three modes. We don't call it trimodal or anything about that. We call it multimodal, basically. It's multimodal, right? This is what we call it. It can also happen that you don't have any modes in the data set. No modes. This is, let's say, 49, right? So this is also possible, right? Now, if I talk about uh, what was the central number for center according to the mode, it was 45, which is again uh, a good enough representation, but not the great representation because it can so happen that we have 100 here, we have 100 here, and let's say this is 48, 49, 48, 47. So data might be skewed towards 40, but since we have two numbers which are like repeating twice, we are defining the mode there as the center of the data, which is not right. In most of the cases, students would get a zero, right? So you can't define mode at zero, right? So these three are called as measures of central tendency. You would have seen it, uh, read about it earlier. I've gone through it काफी time पहले, right? So yeah. So the idea is to have, or the idea is to measure a center, right? Now, two things that are important here. One is you need to handle outliers if you're calculating mean, right? And it can also happen that two different types of data give you the same mean. I'll just present that. And this is where a lot of real life scenario happens. This is a mini example. You have data set A, which has values 9, 10, 11. Let's say students scoring between out of 20, we have 9, 10, 11. And we have another class where students are getting 0, 10, 20. Now, if you calculate the mean, which is sum of these three values, by 3, and in the same case, this is 20 plus 10 by 3, you get the mean equal, right? But if you plot the data, you see that this data is towards us, this data is more stable, and this data is slightly unstable from the mean. So the mean is 10, the mean is 10, but this value is very high compared to these values, right? And the real life example would be price analysis. So imagine that there is a product which is being sold on Flipkart. You are plotting its prices on a daily level. So you have day one price, let's say 100 rupees, day two price 100, day 300, day four is 95, day five is 120. Because of sale, it can increase. Maybe the seller, the price has increased, etc. Right? So the data has spread a lot, right? What we say, the data is spread. Now, if the data is spreading, it is very riskier to plan things for future. Reason for that is, as I gave you the price example, right? I know this price is going to be stable over 10 days, 20 days, 30 days. But for this guy, I know the price is not going to be stable. This guy is not keeping the prices stable. It has a lot of movement in price, right? That movement in price, we call it as spread. I'll tell you how we measure spread, how to measure spread, but I just want to show you through the data that this is how it looks. That the prices are stable, consistent, and in this case it is spread across here and there, right? So here we come up with two or three metrics or measures. Measures is the right word. One is range, the second one is variance, and the third one is standard deviation. I'll explain all of these, no fancy terms, nothing. You can imagine range. What we do is in the range, we take the maximum value and we take the minimum value and we subtract the difference and we say this is the range of the data. So, for example, I have mean in this case 10, right? I take the maximum value, which is 11, take the minimum value, which is 9. 11 minus 9 is 2. So I say this is a data with mean 10 and range 2. Whereas this is mean 10 and range 20, right? So this is how this is a very uh, simple case. But the idea, or we don't use range a lot because of outliers. It can so happen that your data has a lot of outliers, right? So you can imagine data is like this. A lot of students have scored 0 and 3 students have scored 0. And let's say a lot of people lie here with 50s, right? 55, 57, 59, something of that sort, right? And then you have some student who is 99, right? Who has scored 99. So you do 99 minus 0, that won't work out because a lot of people are in the 50s, right? So even though the range comes 100, because of the outliers, the range is not a great number to work with, right? So to calculate spread, what we do is we define something called as variance. I'll define what is variance and give a good feel for it instead of just the name, and we define something called a standard deviation, right? So the idea is that I'll just take the earlier example. The idea is that we want to see from the center of the data, if the center is mean, from the mean, how far are the other data points, right? From the mean, how far are the other data points, right? And once we get that answer, if that number comes out to be very high, we can say that, okay, the data points, or in general, the data set has a high spread or has a high variance. So what we do typically is we calculate the mean of the data, which is in this case 9 plus 10 plus 11, and that by 3. This is the mean of the data, which is 10 in this case, right? Once we calculate the mean of the data, we see and we take difference from each and every data point, right? So
10 minus 9
the mean of the
0
data
plus 1.
is d dash or x bar, x star. This is x1, x2, x3, right? Now, if I take the difference x minus x1, x minus x dash, I'll get some difference like, okay, this is minus 1, this is 0, this is 1. If I directly add these numbers, I get 0, right? I won't get anything out of it. So what we do is we square this. We square these numbers. This is 1, this is 0, and this is 1. Square of minus 1 is 1. Square of 0 is 0. Square of 1 is 1. So there are no negative values. There won't be any cancelling possible, right? So no cancelling would happen. And then we take a sum here. This is square, right? Then we take a sum here. So sum is 2, right? Once we do that, we don't just stop here. The reason for it is you can imagine the number of data points can be very high, right? It can have 100 or 200 data points. So if I'm getting only 2 out of like 100 data points, ideally I should incorporate that 100 here. So what we do is we sort of divide it by n, or the number of data points. And this is what we call as variance, right? So we divide it by 2, divided by 3, and we'll get the result. So 2 by 3 is 0.67. So that will be the variance of the data or spread of the data, right? And since variance is sort of difficult to understand, because here we were talking about marks of the student, right? Then we subtracted from the mean, and then we did sort of marks ka square, which is like slightly different unit itself. So we say, okay, it is very difficult to understand this. We'll take a square root once we have done this. So variance, the square root of variance is standard deviation. Standard deviation. So this is the idea. Standard deviation is basically square root of variance. Idea is that now I can talk in terms of marks. It is not mark square. So if the standard deviation comes out to be 3, I can say that 3 marks away from the center, things are here. So I can talk about the unit is marks basically. So let me just take the other example, then you will understand it better. This was the second graph data. If I calculate the variance here, there's a direct formula for it. So I'll just directly do that. The variance is very high, and the standard deviation would come out to be 10, right? Because it's square root. In this case, if you see, the variance was not that high. The variance here is 100 because the mean is 10 here. So 10 minus 10, this is 0, 20 minus 10, and then you divide it by the number of elements. So Yeah. So variance would be higher, and there are two types of variance. We don't need to go there actually. It will be confusing. But you understand that a variance or spread in the other data is uh, much more compared to the earlier data, right? I'll just take a pause for a second and then create this data. Yeah. So this is what we call a standard deviation. This basically tells you the spread of the data, uh, how the data has been spread out. Uh, Again, there are simple formulas to get everything, all these three things. For mean, you can directly use this. I think mean is not there. You need to do average in Google Sheet. So you'll get the mean here. For median, you can again you have a formula. You can directly see it or do this. That is also fine. In this case, there ideally should not be any more actually because there is no value which is coming again and again, right? So of course it will be NA. No values occur more than once. So the mode does not exist, so there is no mode essentially. So yeah, that is the case. Uh, and then you can get the standard deviation. Standard deviation. So you just need to give these values and you'll get the standard deviation. Right. So yeah, I'll just move this. These are the three important measures of tendency, central measures of tendency, and this is how it is used. I'll show some examples. You will work on some data sets so that you understand them better. So let me explain one more important bit, and then we can go ahead. Right? So there is something called as percentile. I believe in your 11th or 12th, if you gave some competitive exams, you would have heard of this term. So percentile is basically tells you that how many people are sort of, or you are ahead of how many people, right? So let's say uh, you are in the 80th percentile, right? From a student perspective. So you are ahead of 80% of these students, right? So percentile is basically percentile helps you to see how many you are ahead of how many people or you are behind of how many people, vice versa. But generally, it is used for you are ahead of how many people. So when we do or discuss competitive exams like JEE Mains or any of those kinds, we say it's 99 percentile or 95 percentile. Or if you're working for, or if you're doing an MBA, you give CAT, it is 99.9 percentile, right? Which is very high. So you are ahead of 99.9% of the students, right? So that would be the case. Uh, so just a second. So that would be the case, right? If there is anything in chat, you can message. Can you please give some real life example for both? Yes, I'll do that. So this is what is percentile. Percentile, I believe, CAT, or you can take JEE Mains for that matter, or any other competitive exam for that matter to get this, right? Uh, Let me ask you guys a question. Imagine a scenario where you want to. Have you seen those groups where people say that this product is at a very low cost? It was earlier this, and now it is at this. Can you guys uh, tell which of these things are used to arrive at that uh, decision? Like what I'm trying to say is like something. Let's say let's have a phone which is at 90,000 rupees. or 1 lakh rupees, and now it falls down to 85,000, let's say, right? Uh, and then you get a message that this is the best deal or best offer. Do you know uh, how it is calculated? It is calculated from these things only. That's a hint. Which would be used to tell is this a best deal or not for you as a user? Imagine you have prices for every day. So at a daily basis, you have all the prices. Uh, what do you think you would use to come to this conclusion that okay, this price is the one of the lowest prices or cheapest prices, right? So the data set that you have is D1 pay. What is the value of the phone? Let's say it is 1L. D2 it is also 1L. Then you have 90K. Then you have 95K. And from some random group, you get a message that okay, this phone is trading at a great price right now. What do you think? What things do you think you will use? What do you think? What do you guys think? Real, proper real life example happens. This is how it works.
Mean
Yeah.
plus minus deviation. Sorry, yeah.
Mean plus minus deviation. Okay. Okay. Not bad. Yeah. Well, we will calculate it. But yeah, mean plus minus deviation. You can do that. So you can do all of these things actually. So if I calculate mean of this, I will know the mean pricing, right? Um, let me just let me generate the data. Just give me a second. Let's say these are the prices towards my column B and C. The top 20-day prices are there. I'll just calculate the mean right now to see what we are getting. The average is 93.25, right? The lowest I can see it went to 65, right? Uh, if you talk, if you want to get center from this data, right? What will be the center from this data? And we can see a lot of times 100 is repeating, right? So if I calculate the mean, it will be 93. If I calculate the mode, it will be most likely 100 because 100 is occurring a lot number of times. And if I see and sort this out, let me just do that. We have sorted it out. Since there are 20 values here, I'll pick the value which is in the center. So the 20 plus minus, so this would be 97 something, right? So it is towards 100. The main point was that, right? Um, to be honest, right, you might not use the three. You might be using standard deviation only for the reason is if you take standard deviation plus minus, you know, okay, plus minus how much you have to go ahead of the mean, right? So you'll get a range. Just for the sake of discussion, let's say the standard deviation comes out to be 12, right? So the plus minus or this bracket, right? It will be from 81 to 105, right? This is plus minus standard deviation. So the price can fluctuate between 81 and 105. Uh, Ideally, if the price comes, if you ask me, if it comes between 81 to 93, I might buy it, right? This is one approach, not the only approach. This is one approach, right? We talked about something called as percentile as well, right? So you can see that at what price uh, only 25% values are there below that price, or only 20% of value are there below that price. So if I take a percentile here, again there is a formula, nothing fancy. We'll just select the data. I am choosing 25% for 25 percentile. I'll choose 20 percentile, and I'll choose, let's say, 10 percentile, right? What it means is that if I go on a day 16, let's say some new day, day 21, and if I see some price, let's say it is uh, 71, right? What I can say that from the older data, I can say that, sorry, from the older data, I can say that if it is 71 and this is 73, right? 73 means only 10% of the values are below me. Rest 90% of the values are ahead of me, right? But since we want it for cheaper, we want the price to be cheaper. This is what we want, right? We don't want ulta. We want only less number of values below us. So if this is 71, this is a good case for us. Okay, we can buy this off. It is a good number. So things happen between percentile or mean. And most of the time, percentile is used actually because it is more easier for people to understand that 25 percentile uh, the values that the prices that are coming, if they're below the number of values are 25%, then you can buy it, which is a good range basically. So in this case, if I take 25%, it is 88. So if the price was, let's say, 90, you would have bought it. If the price is more than higher, you won't buy it. If the price is 85, again you buy it. So yeah, uh, this is how it is used. Of course, a more complicated way is used in this. You remove a lot of data points here. Ideally, it is not like this. It is in this fashion. You have 150 here. Um, for some day, it is 93, and then sellers often list it at a very high price. I'm not sure if you know. What they do is they list it at, let's say, 300, and uh, they reduce the price drastically to 100. So it appears the discount is very high, and Flipkart's algorithm, or any other algorithm for that matter, uses discount percentage as well to show the products in the search page. So if the discount is very high, it is like the best deal, and your product will come up to the top. So to identify these cases that this is not the case, what we do is we plot the price. If this is selling always at 300 rupees, then okay, this might be a real price, right, on a daily basis. But no, if this has just gone before 1 month before sale at 300 and then suddenly dropped to 100, then it's something which is something fishy, right? So this is a sort of a way where we flag sellers that they are trying to cheat the system, right? So it's a mixture of these only. These things are only used to flag these things out, right? Uh, yeah. So in this case, if the standard deviation, if I calculate the standard deviation, and if it is a lot, in this case it was 12, but let's say it is 50 or 60, meaning the price is fluctuating a lot, meaning the spread is a lot of spread is there, right? The price is not stable, which is not a good sign in general for you as a seller, for you as a uh, person who is selling that item. To give another practical example, silver, right? I'm not sure if you're aware, prices of silver over the past 2 months have been very drastic. There have been very drastic changes. So uh, I'm aware of markets of how US and India markets operate. In the US markets, the jewelry owners have declined to purchase any silver from any customer. So they are not selling it and they are not buying it because the price is so fluctuating in the US. While gold, even though fluctuating, it is a more stable currency, form of currency, right? In India, people do buy it, but they buy it at 20% markdown, right? So if silver is selling at 100, they are buying it at 80 or they are buying it at 70. Some shops do buy it at 10% markdown or something of that sort. They don't buy it at the same price. They buy it at much lower because the fluctuation is very high, right? So the price fluctuation, right? In these cases, you need to see what is the median. If you see the outliers, you will see a lot of outliers there. You need to see the percentile, etc., and then reach a conclusion. Who for whom this is required? Let's say JP. Let's say no, JP Morgan bought 23 tons of silver, right? Now they need to arrive, right, by doing some calculation that they need to buy it or not. So they calculate the mean, they calculate the standard deviation, they see the variance, the spread. They see, okay, this much spread is there, and they anticipate the spread will go till 2x or 3x. It won't go more than that, right? So they are able to take that loss, they are able to take that hit. So these are the things which are used in some way or some form by us on a daily basis. Even mode, right? Mode is basically the most occurring frequency. So we don't say it like this, but if I ask you what is on Swiggy, what is the item which is ordered the most, right? You are actually calculating the mode, right? Ordered most is basically, let's say it's cuisine. So you see Italian, and then there is Austrian, and there is in not Indian, but okay, we'll just write it Indian. It covers everything Indian. So let's say it is more are from Italian, right? This is actually mode, right? This is the highest uh, number of times this is what is occurring. So yeah, uh, we'll go to some example and feel free to unmute yourself. This is an actual data for a seller. Let me can't I change it? Okay. Hopefully, is it visible? This is an actual data for a seller on a daily basis for day 1 to day 30. The price of the product and the number of units sold, what discount was given second, and the rating for that day. You can ignore this actually. For now, let's concentrate on this. Right. So you get this raw data. Now you need to clean it. Can you see places where cleaning is required? What do you think
In the
where
units,
cleaning?
in the column of units sold.
Can you be specific with the row number?
Yeah,
Is it
14.
possible?
14.
Yeah. So this is one place
Well,
I'll just highlight it. Yeah.
in price.
Yeah.
Also in the price, we'll have to put the dollar sign or any currency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In
There are two more.
C24, in the discount, we have something called 5 written, row
Yeah.
number 30.
Yeah. There is one more, I believe, if I'm not wrong, which is an outlier. Can you identify the outlier from the data?
200 price.
Yeah. So this thing, right? I'll just mark this as a red. Now what happens is, in a real life scenario, this is for one seller, for one product. Could have tons and tons of data. Now what happens is data is collected in some form or shape like this, and the data has a lot of mistake. Sometimes someone has filled the wrong information, someone has inserted the wrong information, even though they have said something. Sometimes there is some data issue, so data is not captured, etc. Right? So some kind of cleaning happens, right? The most famous cleaning, I'll just start one by one. It can have the data can have some missing values, right? So I'm assuming this is a missing value, so I'll just delete this. This is a missing value, and this is a missing value. So your data can have missing values. So there are two or three options that you can do. I'll just answer the easiest option, remove that row, right? Just remove that row because it is incomplete. We don't know what is happening. right? This is one option. You can very well take it. That's fine. Can you think of some other things uh, that you can do, or you can put value here through some logic? You can fill it
In
somehow.
yeah, in price we can put the mean value.
Yeah, you can take average, right? You can take average of this and directly put it here, right? One possibility is that you can do that. Of course, we will.
We
Hmm.
can put a filter and like remove all the blank cells.
Yes, we can do that. That is same as removing the row. So you just remove this row, you remove this row completely. That is fine, perfectly fine. The only issue with that is sometimes what happens is a lot of times there are issues with data, and you don't want to lose on this information because you know this information is correct. You know this discount is correct. You know this seller is how much discount the seller is giving. You don't want to lose information. And we are just analyzing 2 or 3 columns. Ideally, it is like 50 columns, 100 columns. In a good environment, you should have somewhere between 8 to 20 columns. You have timestamp, you have account ID. But the number column should be between 8 to 12, but that is a good scenario. That is how a table should be built. But people do all sorts of things. Yeah. So yeah, you can have some average here. You can maybe do median, maybe mode. You need to think of that by looking at the data. So you need to plot this data on a graph, and this is where uh, the second part comes into play. So sometimes you might not be able to see things quickly through the numbers, right? And going through the numbers, it is very difficult in general. So it is always recommended that you plot a chart. Let me. I'm just selecting some chart here. Yeah, but this gives us an idea. Ideally, we change chart types basis the type of data. But if we see here, right, we see a stable sort of line towards 100, but there is one spike here at 200. And I know 200 is an outlier. If I have a million rows, I can see that, okay, these are the data points which are outlier. The reason to identify outliers is I can't directly take average here. If I take average of this data set to fill this value, that will be wrong because it is being the outlier is very high, right? So it will skew the results. It give a wrong representation. So you remove the outliers. So there are two plots that we do. Sometimes we do a line chart that is also enough. Depending on the uh, quantity of data, you select some or the other kind of chart. You would do this exercise, I believe, in Python, where a lot of data cleaning would be involved, or you can plot a scatter plot. So you can see, okay, these are dots. Yeah, there's one dot which is at the top. So this is skewed result. I'm not sure if it is visible. This is at this, right? So when you clean the data as well, right? Uh, Cleaning basically doesn't mean that removing rows, etc. It also means that filling information sort of towards a good accuracy so that you can use this for analysis. Right? So we'll assume that we are taking average here after removing outliers, right? So I'll just write average here. Now there can be times where a column would have negative and positive values. At that place, you can't use an average, right? So you need to look at the data and then you need to suggest whatever you're suggesting. It can be missing value. There are tons and tons of things, right? So that is how the suggestions change, right? Let's say there are so many values which are not there. So maybe you might not be able to use this column altogether. It will be very difficult to fill everything, right? It could skew the results. So let's say we have this average. You can easily check this in one function. So you would be able to easily get this out actually. once you learn Python or once you learn SQL, anything, it doesn't matter. Even I can do it faster in Excel because it's not a number. You can see, since Excel is also not, I believe we didn't have the Excel session as well, but you can see whether this is a number or not. There is a function here. So you can correct these things out. Just give me a second. Now, at times, what happens is data is also sometimes repeated, right? Now, this is price unit sold, but it can happen that this entry is often repeated. There are multiple scenarios, system lags are there, or something, some wrong entry is happening. We are getting data from somewhere. So we need to check for duplicates as well. So we need to remove duplicates as well. So 50 to 80% of the time goes into cleaning the data, seeing the charts, how it is looking. So now we know the price has been stable, right? Even before analyzing numbers, I didn't go through the numbers, but I know the price has been stable, right? Uh, so if I can check whether the discount was stable or not. So if I insert mm, chart, okay. uh, it is fluctuation. It has a lot of fluctuation, but there is one fundamental thing which I'm doing wrong. Ideally, I should incorporate price and then discount, right? If someone is already trading at a very low price, the person won't give a higher discount for that. So there are some things that you need to see. You need to see the data points. You need to ask the questions: what is this, etc. Right. So we'll go to another important concept. We call this as correlation and causation. Yeah. Just give me a minute. I'll just take a break. I'll just get water. You guys can also have a break. We'll start at 3 again. Just give me a minute. I'll be back. Top right. It is very far from the where the data is situated. Is there a mathematical way that you can use to arrive? Uh, this will be the outlier, or
Yeah,
this is the range. Yeah.
we can check for the mode, the frequency of like occurring this particular 200, how many times it occurs in the dataset.
Okay.
Yeah,
But then I won't understand. Let's say mode occurs 200 occurs one time, right?
yeah,
But that doesn't mean that uh, it is an outlier, right? It can so happen that let's say 85, I can generate a data set which is like this: 86, 87, 88. These values will also be 1: 86, 87, 88. The mode will be 1. I can generate that data, right?
yeah.
So only just the mode might not help.
We can
So
calculate the standard deviation, then we can see the maximum value, and if the range, uh, I mean, if we have most highest value 100, and then there is one value which is far away from the standard deviation of that 100, which is 200, then it can be the standard, it can be the outlier.
got it. Got it. Fair. Some form of we need to use standard deviation, or I believe there is a chat interpointile uh, rule as well. I'll just explain that. It is same as the percentile basically. Uh, Basically percentile extension, right? Um, so just give me a second. If we calculate the average here, it will be 92. If I calculate the, I believe, to be honest, right? The variance formula is not working here properly. It is not giving the correct variance for some reason. Anyway, right? The standard deviation, let's say, is 22, right? So what people generally do is they have this mean value. They know where is the mean, and always go back to some kind of this graph, right? So you know the mean, and then you see the standard deviation, right? So the price I think was 92 rupees. Standard deviation is 22, right? So 92 plus 22, 92 minus 22, right? That will be your range of prices, and the rest of the other things are outliers. This can be one of the definition, not the great definition. It's not what I'm trying to say, uh, but it is sort of one of the definitions, right? Generally, if you have lot of data, there is something called as what happens is uh, about 68% of values lie between mean plus minus standard deviation. If data is roughly normal, 68% of the values will lie between plus and minus of standard deviation. In this scenario, it means that 92 minus 22, which is 70, 92 plus 22, 115. So I'm saying that 68% of the values lie between this range, right? Now, if the data is roughly normal, so if you have a lot of data, right, you can try to do this exercise. Generate some synthetic data from GPT, that is also fine. And if it is plus minus 2 standard deviation, this number goes to 95%. So 95% of the values are between plus minus 2 standard deviation, which basically means this minus 2 into this number. So it's 47. In this case, it is 137, right? Rest everything, right, can be called as outliers because 95% values lie between this range. So you can use this logic sort of to get outliers. And the best way to get outliers is through charts, through this logic. You can also see this rule that mean plus minus standard deviation 68%. Right. So it is called a 68, 95, 99.7 rule. So if the data is normal, uh, you can use this as well. 99.7 is basically mean plus minus 3 standard deviation. So mean is denoted by mu. So this is mu minus sigma is basically standard deviation. So mean minus standard deviation, mean plus standard deviation, and so on and so forth. 99% of the data falls between this range if the data is normal. You can use this. There are a lot of things that you can do that will involve some statistics and that will be out of scope. So by this, you should be good to go. Yeah. Let's go ahead. There's something called as correlation and causation. So there is a very, very famous example that during summers in Spain, uh, the more the number of ice cream sales were, more number of people were drowning, or basically in the sea, right? So they drew a chart and they said that uh, higher the number of ice cream sales, higher the number, I don't want to say deaths, but higher number of cases of drowning. Right? Now, these are two data points, right? Number of ice cream sales, number of cases of drowning. This is sometimes data points are dependent on each other, correlated to each other. So if one thing increases, the other thing also increases, or if one thing decreases, the other thing also decreases, right? So most of the time, it happens that, let's say, the sales are increasing, right? The number of quantity products sold are increasing. The revenue, there is a very high chance that the revenue will also increase, right? It is not necessary, but there is a very high correlation that the revenue will also increase. So there is a metric called as correlation. We won't go into how it is being calculated, but it gives you an understanding that whether these two data points are dependent on each other or not dependent on each other, right? So this value comes between -1 to 0 correlation. If you do this equal to and write correlation, so you can get this, and you can select your data, this data and this data, and we can calculate the correlation. So what they observed that on a daily basis, they had the data for ice cream. On a daily basis, they had a data for number of cases of drowning. They drew a correlation from data one and data two, and they discovered that the higher the ice cream sales, the higher the cases of drowning. The correlation came close to one. So one basically means that um, X increase here will 100% cause an increase in the Y variable as well. Now we know that this is not true. So uh, correlation always is not correct, right? So in this scenario, what was happening is there was another variable which is temperature, right? Or summers. So if the temperature was higher, these two things were increasing basically, right? So even if what happened is one day no ice cream sales happened, still the number of drowning cases were increasing, right? Because of it had no correlation with it had a correlation with ice cream sales, but that was not the cause for drowning. So ice cream sales had nothing to do with drowning basically. So you can correlate things, but it is not necessary that because of
Well
this is
stated,
happening, right?
bro.
A lot of uh, superstitions are also there. I'm not sure if you're aware of it. There is a player called as uh, Arsenal's player Ramsey, and whenever he scores a goal, someone a good or a big celebrity dies. That is a correlation, right? It is not a causation that whenever he scores, someone dies. But of course, he is not doing it. So there is a good correlation, but it is not causing that. So there is a difference between correlation and causation. Yeah. So if we talk about this, right? Ideally, whenever the price is down, the unit sold should be higher, right? So between -1 to 1, it should be negative. If I calculate a correlation between these two numbers or these two data points, it should be towards -1, which is the maximum. Ideally, it is minus 0.54, right? Which is not that much. Okay, let me just change this. Yeah. If you saw this data was skewing it, right? The 200 one. I just change it. We change it to the average value. Let's say the average was 100. Now we see a very high correlation between these two. So whenever the price would go down, the number of units sold will increase. This makes sense logically as well because decrease in price will most likely have an effect in increasing units. You can also compare discount and units, right? So if the discount is higher, units sold should be higher. So this should be positive. So this is 94, right? Which is 0.94, which is towards 1. So that also makes sense, right? This is positive, this is negative. So then the higher the discount, the number of units sold is high. The lower the price, the number of units sold is low, which makes sense, right? So this is what is called as correlation and causation. I think that is the last concept, technical concept for the introduction lecture. I'll just cover one thing which is mentioned in the chat. There is something, okay, I won't go into detail of it, but in percentiles, right? Percentile basically tells you that X number of percent of the data is behind me, right? So if you take 50 percentile, 50 percentile basically means the median, right? It is the middlemost value. So 50 percentile is called as median. 25 percentile is called as lower quartile, and 75 percentile is called as upper quartile, and then you have 90 percentile above as well. Causation, can you explain it once more? Yes, I'll just do that in a minute. Um, and then you have 90%, right? This is generally used as a mark of to get the top people, right? Top 10%. So uh, the person who commented 1.5 IQR basically is trying to say that uh, uh, in some form or shape, use percentiles, some interquartile ranges uh, to remove outliers. I won't go into that rule because it will be slightly out of scope, but you can use some type of percentiles above this or below this and reach a conclusion, okay, I want to remove this. So my suggestion would be you can search on Google how to remove outliers, and that will help you out. I believe you know all the key concepts, so that should not uh, in understanding the important key concepts, right? Causation is basically Nishant. Basically, what I'm trying to say that if I do something uh, and let's say whenever I eat, there is a rain, right? There is always rain. Whenever I'm eating from my left hand, rain starts to come, right? So is this true or not? Does this make sense? We don't know, right? So what we do is we track on a daily basis. Whenever I'm eating from my left hand, is it raining or not? So I tracked over 100 days, and I saw 99 days it was happening the way it was happening. So whenever I was eating with my left hand, it was raining, right? Now, this is correlation basically. So whenever I'm doing X, this is also increasing, or this is also going in the same direction, and it is happening continuously. But is this variable causing a change on this variable or on this data? The answer is no. It can so happen that I was eating in rainy season, monsoon, so every day it was raining. So it didn't matter if I eat through left hand or right hand. It was going to rain, right? So it is not necessary that
Agreed.
every data point will have some effect on the other data point, even though correlation is high. So correlation is not causation. So this is not what is causing the rain. Me eating with left hand is not causing the rain. So that is what I was trying to get.
Got it, sir.
Can you give examples of real life? I can give examples. Let me just think. Let me just form one example. It is mostly used in uh, pricing only. That it is dependent on this. Let me just think quickly. Any other questions except that? I think. Let me just quickly write. If I
Sir, up
can,
to
yeah.
sir, up to what percent we can like remove the outlier by average or kind of like.
Right. So this is a very, very, very good question. Um, it actually depends, right? Uh, Sometimes you need to take a business call. Sometimes it is 5% or 10% of the data. There is no fixed rule uh, as such. But generally, as an industry practice, we don't go more than 5% or 10%. If the if there are a lot of columns which are missing, right, then it means that you can't directly use that data in a good fashion. You can't use it for model training, etc. So these I won't be able to give a number out here, but I can say what is being used across industries. So yeah, that would be the case. Um, 5-10% is what have seen practically. And again, it depends on the column type. If the column is like price, etc., we do that. If it is something like some different column itself, let's say delivery time, etc., something which is not that important, we don't even bother doing those things. We just skip it. So that is how it works. Okay, so let me think of a real life example. To be honest, nothing is coming to my mind right now. We did have one case, one scenario where we had a column which was metro users and non-metro users, basically city tier, and then we had something related to uh, orders, but I don't recall it completely. So I'm just making thing up. Does it is relevant in real life scenario in company? Yeah, it is very relevant in the company data. Uh, I'm not able to think of a scenario. I don't recall the scenario to be honest, but you can use these things as proxy. Okay, check the scenario. I'll tell you some other things, and that will help.
So,
Let's say you are, yeah.
so how can like we can make the decision in the categorical data, like the missing categorical data is there like in the large amount, like how can we define it?
So there are some things which are in your control, and there are some things which are not in your control. So a lot of missing values will be there, right?
Yeah.
You need to correct the data collection process itself. So you might not be able to correct that a lot of time. Either you would skip that column altogether, or you can use a column which is highly correlated to your column,
Okay.
correlation part, right? So you
If
can
we'll
use
take
a
the
column
10,
which,
yeah, if
yeah,
we'll
yeah.
take the 10%, this kind of data in the last data set amount, so we can like remove it and then
Could you
perform our
please,
task. Yeah.
could you
If,
please repeat? Yeah.
yeah, if we have the 10% of such data,
Hmm.
then we can remove it for the
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah, okay.
You can remove it, but again, it depends on the quantity, right? If you just have 100 data points and then you remove 10 of those,
No, for
I don't
sure,
know what.
like for large set
Yeah.
amount, like large set of data.
Yeah, so large set of data, you can go ahead and remove it. No issues with it. At times, people do also remove those 5 rows if those are not important, right? 5% of the rows. So you need to take that call basis the industry. So these numbers do change basically, right? The answer I'll tell you other real life scenarios where this is important. So I have a use case from my current company for correlation. I'll give that. Um, so our company is a bit about our company. Our company takes AI interviews of people. So you don't need to give interview to a human. We take AI interviews, right? So we have something called as a question bank. We do proctoring or we catch cheating, and we also do the assessment. So in the question bank, what we have is uh, this is a real example. So a question bank has a skill name. Let's say I'll just write C or Java or any of those skills. Doesn't matter. It can be um, Excel as well. And then you have the question, and the question will be, let's say, what is C, or what are is C the most popular programming languages, or for Excel, what is VLOOKUP, or some of the other kind of questions, right? The idea of question bank is it's a static repository. So whenever I have to take an interview of a person for Excel, I'll directly go here, filter for Excel, and ask some or the other question, right? Now, the question bank has a lot more columns. We have the difficulty level, we have the seniority level, and we have the time it takes time it takes to answer the question, right? Uh, if you ask me, right, um, this column and this column, right, uh, are most of the times highly correlated. Time it takes to answer the question. So if a question is very difficult, it takes most of the times a lot of time to answer the question. Whereas if the question is very easy, you answer it within a minute or so, right? The idea here is that if these two columns are very highly correlated, there is no need for me to collect this data because this data is very difficult to collect in itself. Time it takes to answer the question, right? It changes from person to person, right? It can happen that I can answer a question in 2 minutes, while let's say Archana is answering in 10 minutes, right? It depends a lot, right? But if, let's say, uh, when we did the analysis, we observed this only that the difficulty level is very highly correlated for time it takes to answer the question. If such a scenario is there, we won't collect this data. We will skip this, or we can collect it, but we won't use it for modeling purposes, right? Because what happens is if two columns are highly correlated, uh, you won't be building models, but if you give this to a data scientist, what happens is the answer is given a higher weightage because of these two columns. The reason for that is these two columns are going in a single direction at the same area, right? So if even if you don't have this, that is fine. You can get output basis this. The moment you add this column, the output goes towards these two directions. So the correlation affects the model's output. So the idea is that we won't be tracking this. It saves us space. We don't have to track it. There are like for a single job posting, we get 1,000 interviews, right? So it doesn't make sense to track it uh, everywhere every time. So I've given example of my recent company. I'll just think of some example in the meantime if I can get for Flipkart or Amazon, which would be more relatable. But this basically saves us space, saves us storage cost, and saves us money basically. And of course, if there is no reason if there are two columns which give the same information, right? To keep it is a redundant data. It doesn't make sense to have that column. Yeah. So I'll
So
think about more cases. Yeah.
I have doubt like difficulty and time to answer the question. They have correlation, but are they have causation as well?
So something can have correlation but not causation. Some things can have correlation and causation as well, right? In this scenario, the correlation was high, so we have just done that. For causation, we know that uh, this is through some industry knowledge, etc. Okay, if this kind of question comes, right, this will take a lot of time for someone to answer. Even if I tell that, let's say, clean the data, explain how would you clean a data. Even the question is easy. Uh, you might take, you might answer in a minute, or you might answer in 10 minutes. It changes, right? But if there is a very difficult question that you need to do this analysis, then you need to do mean, then you need to do percentile, etc., then you are bound to get, it is bound to have more time. It takes more time to answer that question, and it's more difficult as well. In our scenario, through industry, uh, somebody will explain in detailed manner. uh, yeah, let me think on that. Let me think on that. Let me give an example for that. But yeah, uh, give me 5 minutes. I'll think of a different scenario, which is more relevant to Flipkart, and that will help you to clear the doubt. Yeah, so I'll move towards the. Somebody will explain in just few sentences. Yes, yes. So it can so happen that
No, but
someone
you
can
have
answer
already
quickly.
set a bound time that is expected to answer that question. So
No,
if it is an easy
we
question,
we we wrote time it takes to answer,
okay.
right? So it's not bounded. uh, we say that it takes 3 minutes to sort of answer this question. Right. So what we figured out is that typically, I'll write actual data right now. So easy question takes between 0 to 3 minutes to answer. Let me just zoom out. Whereas a medium question takes somewhere between 3 to 5 minutes or 2.5 to 5 minutes. Some overlapping range, that's fine. And a hard question in general goes above 5 minutes, right? So, of course, there can be scenarios where a person is very smart. He would answer it in like one go, right? Those scenarios are also there. But what we found out that this has a very high correlation. So whenever a hard question was asked, the candidate took more than 5 minutes to answer.
That's what I
Whenever,
wanted to say, sir.
yeah. So uh, that happened. So this is how correlation works, right? That whenever a easy question is asked, and even if you give an AI interview right now, I believe currently you will be bound by time that you have to answer within 3 minutes. The 3 minutes has come through this only, that they saw very high correlation that okay, easy questions take 0 to 3 minutes to answer, medium takes 2.5 to 5 minutes to answer, hard takes 5 up to 5 minutes to answer, or more than 5 minutes to answer. So then it doesn't make sense to have this column. Yeah. Of course, there can be some outliers. Some cases would be there that there is one person, like let's say Nishant, who is answering in a few sentences, right? So he answered this question within a minute. That is also possible. But if he answered within a minute, it might happen that he has not covered the complete question. So answering within a minute is different. Score
Yeah.
of that answer is different. There are two different things. So the assessment will be bad. I'll give him, let's say, 1 out of 5, right? Assuming that he has answered within 30 seconds. And I know it takes a lot of time to uh, capture all the points, right? The moment I have started to explain this, it's been 15 minutes, right? So it takes a lot of time to explain, right? It's very difficult for someone to answer within a minute. I doubt that from experience, from interview experience, etc. Of course, there can be some cases where people are doing it, but that doesn't matter. We have to see data as whole. So zero point 0.9 is, let's say the correlation is zero point 0.9, then you can remove it. That's fine.
Sir, why
Yeah.
we are not using this for the automation?
Why we are not using
This
for
data.
automation?
Yeah, this data time taken to like answer the question.
We can use it for which kind of automation? You
Like
mean?
for the test procedure and all. Like, will it affect the test procedure?
Uh, mm, the answer is uh, no, basically,
Okay.
because we know now the duration, right? Now, if I have it here or I don't have the column, right? Now, if I have those three numbers, I can just go ahead with this. Then there is a different question, right? Let's say I'm just writing a random question here. Uh, what is mean? What is median, right? So these questions would have. Uh, I know that this will take like up to more than 5 minutes. This is like 2.5 to 5. I don't need that time right now.
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
good
Right.
with this. Uh, the reason we kept difficulty and removed this is because when we take interviews, right, we tend to ask questions which are easy in nature. That is how I think as a human. So I think, okay, I'm answering it easily. Let's say Nishant gives the answer. I ask another question easy. Let's say uh, he has given the answer quickly, right? Now I see, okay, he's answering these two easy questions. Let me change gears. Let me ask a medium question. I am increasing the difficulty. That's how real life interviews happen. You go from easy towards hard. Depends. Every person is different, but that's how 80 to 90% of the people take the interview. And this is how dynamic questioning comes into picture. So if two questions are answered easily and correctly, a medium question is asked. Now, if instead of this, I would have this data, 2 minute, 2.5 minute to this data, I don't think like this. Okay, this guy has answered this in 2 minutes. This guy has answered this in four
No, it
minutes.
doesn't
Let
make
me
sense.
ask.
Yeah,
Yeah, no one thinks that, right? So
got it, sir.
we think like this. Yeah. Still, I will think of some Flipkart related example or e-commerce example. This is something which I gave from my company. Uh, I'll think of something. There are a lot of examples. Normally, like students, it is said that the more the number of hours students study, the higher the score is. It can happen, right? We need to check it. This can have a higher correlation, right? Or you can have something else that uh, you exercise more, it will burn more calories. That is also possible, right? That you are exercising more, you are burning more calories. So the more you exercise, the higher calorie burn rate would be there. This is again positively correlated. So this is of health industry. So again, if you are saying high calories burn, you can say that just by looking that column, you can say this guy must be active. So sometimes you don't have that information. Is this guy active or not? So you from the mobile phone or from the watch, iPhone has it, you can see the burn of calories, right? So you can get a guess, okay, this guy doesn't have a sedentary lifestyle. Because of the calorie, you can make an estimate that this guy is doing some kind of exercise or some kind of uh, work which involves a lot of physical activity. This is correlation. This is actually a practical example. Yeah. So you can skip that thing there. Yeah, I think that is it.
So if
Generally,
there is causation,
yeah.
then there will always be correlation, and if there is correlation, then there may or may not be causation.
Yes, I think yes, yes. Correlation may or may not be uh, causation. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
One more thing.
Yeah.
For correlation, in practical, when you're analyzing the data, see, correlation helps us in building charts like that, when one is changing, how other is changing. Like we can show the data using
Yeah.
correlation. Causation is what I feel is it is like hypothesis, right? In my perspective, it might be something, some other person, it might be different, right? Causation.
Yes. Yes. Causation you can't show through data. It is something that
No,
uh,
like in practical sense, will causation in any way will it help the data analysis?
causation in any way will help.
The analysis what we are doing.
Yes. Yes. Because if you get a variable that if you change variable x and that changes variable y,
No,
and
that
if
is
you get this,
correlation, right?
no, right? So it can so
Correlation
happen that
like
yeah,
correlation is always positive. Like if one increases, other should increase. One increases, other is decreasing. It is not correlation.
one is increasing, other is decreasing. It is correlation, but negative correlation.
Yeah,
But
correct.
but I'm saying it is not compulsory that this is increasing. That's why this is decreasing. That is what I'm trying to say.
Both okay, okay. Both may not be
Uh,
directly related. Yeah.
yeah, it can happen. That is what I'm trying to say. That let's say there is summers, right? I'm eating ice cream and people are drowning. So the number of ice cream sales is high. The number of drowning sales is also high. So at a daily level, if I just see this data on a daily basis, D1, ice cream scales is 100, and let's say people drowning is also 100. This is 50. This is 55. So this is whenever this increases, right? Now this
Both are
doesn't
related.
mean yeah, both are related. This means that when this is increasing, this is also increasing. So they are going in the same direction. They have a high correlation. It doesn't mean that increase in ice cream sales is causing increase in drowning. There is another variable which is temperature,
Which is affecting. Yes.
which is affecting these two variables. Yeah, yeah. So, uh, yeah, I think great discussion. We'll just go to one important concept. which is metrics. So metrics, right? Imagine that. Let me open Flipkart. This will be easy to. Let me just log in. I'm not sure if you guys know, but what happens is people list products, right? So in this case, what a seller has done, the seller has put this image left and put this image on the right. This is single image, but he has combined these images. Uh, I'm 100% sure I did this analysis. So such sellers also do one yellow left mein and one yellow, one this thing on towards the right. What ends up happening is this seller has higher number of listings right now. So his products come more into search. Even though those are same product, the images are different. So this is just something which I just saw right now. I added it to cart, but we don't see it in the cart. Let me. Let me add something else. Hmm. Our website is not working. Yeah. Cool. Uh, what happened is there is a hypothesis. The hypothesis that people are coming to cart and they come to the cart just to check the prices of the product, right? They don't do or they don't add products to the wish list. They add products to the cart and see the prices uh, of the product. And cart is used as a wish list sort of. So in cart, people add their items. This was found through a research. So just assume this is true for now that we did. What we also found out that uh, people are clicking 60% of the time on save for later or remove, right? Instead of placing an order. And once they remove, the product is removed from the cart. And once they do save for later, they don't come back to the product again within 3 months. This is also through data which we saw. We also found out that there are 20 or 30% janta who is clicking on the image and ordering this single product. Okay. So the product manager comes up with an idea that hey, I'm going to put a button, buy this now. The idea of that button is basically you can order a single item. You don't need to order completely from the cart. You are given an option to order single items. Is the use case clear? Is the AV clear? This will be the one version of the AV. I'll take a pause. Is the question clear? Yeah, great. Now, your objective as data analyst is to come up with some metrics. I'll explain what is metrics, but you need to come up with certain data points which will help you evaluate A bucket and B bucket, right? So this is the experiment. I'll just show an example of a metric, and then you can think of some metrics, right? A metric can be of this sort: number of people who came to cart. This is a data point. Number of people who ordered from cart. And let's say this was 100. This is A, this is B. In both cases, 100 people are coming to the cart because we are not changing the number of people who are coming to the cart. Let's say this is 20. So the metric would be I'm tracking this as percentage. Out of 100 people, 20 people are converting. 20% of the janta has ordered, right? So you have the data points here. You list your data points, and then you take some kind of ratio, some kind of percentage to make sense out of data. Because just telling this 100 and this is 150 doesn't help. It can so happen that this might be 110. For some or the other reason, it can happen, right? People have logged in later. There are more people in this bucket. This is in millions, right? So this is actually like this. The numbers are very huge. So it can so happen that this is 110 and this is this, or this is also possible, right? So we always take percentages, x divided by y. This is what we call as metric. Now the question to you guys is, if I want to check whether this experiment has worked or not, how should I check? What data point should I capture? Data points should I capture? Just one more important thing. I'll just write the question here. I'll just write the hypothesis. The hypothesis that a cart, soft, save for later, and remove are basically removing items from the cart, right? Save for later is also soft remove. So the idea is that people will be ordering single items from the cart, and there will be more number of orders and more revenue in the newer variant. So more revenue and more orders. This is the hypothesis for doing this experiment. Okay. We'll go to Flipkart so that I can show you the screen. What data points will you track that, okay, if this is higher and the higher than this, then I'll say this experiment is successful. We'll take this slide. Can you think of some data point?
Data point from the UI of Flipkart.
Data points in general. It can be UI, something which will help you to decide whether this experiment is working or not. Right? You want to decide that is this experiment working or not, right? How would you make that decision? You made some changes.
Conversion
How
rate.
would you? Yeah, so we need to define what is conversion rate. What is conversion? This by this. What is numerator? What is denominator? So I'll write some things which I feel are correct. Number of product ordered. Product ordered. Okay, this is right as well as wrong at the same time.
We can take the first one as number of people who came to cart, and the second one can be number of people who ordered from from buy now.
Got it. So we'll go. I'll just write these things down quickly. This is test and this is control or current variant. Test is basically where we have changed that. So one is K, number of people who are coming to the cart. We will track that in both the buckets. In the second bucket, number of people who ordered through the buy this now
The buy
button
now
or the
option,
new.
yes.
This is right, but not entirely right. Reason for that is this number will be 0 here, right? And it will be there, something will be there. So if I take ratio of this will of course be higher.
We can do like number of people who had something in their card, and that will be in the denominator, and numerator may number of people who ordered through whole card or people who have ordered by now, because in the test case we will have buy now case, and in the control we have complete by card.
Right. So it makes more sense. Okay, I do this buy now or complete cart order, right? Place order. I think this is place order. Place order. So someone has clicked buy now or place order because I want to have like to like metric, right? Like to like comparison. So I can do this thing. Here I there will be some order, 40 or something. Let's say this is 30, this is 40. A number of people, let's say this is 100. I think the denominator was wrong. You said addition, but you can take number of people who came to the car. Now, if we take this as a metric, right? If you ask me, this number will be higher always, but this is not the right way. So there
Shouldn't
is some.
we like who came to cart and placed order, and then who came to cart through buy now and placed order?
Who came to cart and placed order?
And
Okay.
through normal add to cart method, first one would be add to cart and another one would be buy now, and both in
Hmm.
both cases, if there is a successful order, like order placed, shouldn't that be the metric
You
that we should be considering?
you the problem there is that in the newer variant, right, the user will also have this button. This button won't go away. You would have option to buy this single, but you also have this button. So it can happen that people are coming here and people are ordering through this or this. So you would be ignoring these orders, which won't be again the right comparison.
Got it.
You
Got
would
it.
be
Okay.
skipping
Can
Yeah.
you
that.
explain why you said that 40 will always be higher? Because I said that number of people who ordered from buy now, like if they have three things in their card and if they order any of the thing from the three things, then it will be a conversion for that. Like we will calculate it. And
Yes.
similarly for the
Yes.
if it has the whole card option, then if it order the complete card items, then also it's a
Yes.
conversion. So why will the
And
other will always be?
so this will be higher for two reasons. Uh, I'll tell you honest answers and the hypothesis as well. Uh, Generally, people take a lot of time to make a decision over a lot of items. If there are 4 or 5 items, right, they go into the thinking situation that should I order this, should I not order this, and they don't tend to place order. But if there is just a single item, people tend to quickly place the orders. So what we saw, this was the hypothesis or research part. What we saw that the number of absolute orders has increased. I'm not talking about other things. I don't know about other things. I'm saying number of absolute orders was increased. So again, I can't say it for confirm. You are right. I can't say it. Okay, this would be higher or this would be lower. I'm just saying through data and through our hypothesis, we knew this would be higher. So I can't comment here, to be honest. We don't know. We need to check it out through data. What is happening? But I just what this thing that I told, right? This was when we ran the experiment. We saw this.
So it just
So
validate
that's
our
why.
hypothesis, no? That if we do this, we will get more conversions.
Hmm, right. But our question. Can you repeat what our question is? What do you think our question is?
You were like testing these two cases here, the current and test, which should we implement this or not, or which will
No.
ultimately increase the revenue.
Right. Does ordering more items, placing? We are talking about order. We are not talking about items here. Does having more orders translate to more revenue?
No,
The
so in
answer
this
might be
case,
no.
yeah, we have
Yeah.
to take the average order value, like if they are for a particular period of time, if they are ordering, so let's say in one case they are ordering two items in the card out of three, and the
Hmm.
average order value comes out to be higher than the other person who completely ordered three items but they have items lower value items in their card, so we have to actually aggregate the orders per card.
Right. So I'll just help others. So what we were discussing is basically, even though the number of orders are higher in the test period, it doesn't mean that the revenue will be higher. Simple reason for that is you are now ordering single products. A single product in general, the order value will be of course lower because you are ordering a single product. So the revenue may not be higher. We don't know actually. You need to test that out. So there should be some metric of revenue here, right? So what happens is, in general, uh, when we create metrics, we have two kinds of metric. One is primary metric, second is secondary metrics, and third are guardrail metrics, right? The idea for this is it can so happen that you bring some feature out, you have this button, but it can disturb something else as well. It can initiate, it can create a lot of problems. Maybe the feature is there, it is increasing bounce rate, I don't know, or maybe people are dropping off for some reason, or maybe the revenue is dropping. So you need a guardrail metric as well, right? So this is how metrics are there. So you look at a primary metric, then you look at a secondary metric, and you say that if the guardrail metrics are not negative in the test variant and primary metrics are positive, you can think of taking this experiment live. Now, what we saw was people revenue, right? Ideally, you don't want revenue by, let's say, number of people, revenue per visitor, I would write it. That should go down, right? Because the idea is to increase more revenue. Even if more orders are there and the revenue per visitor is going down, then it is not making sense to you, right? So you want revenue per visitor higher. You can't take revenue per customer, that will be lower because 40 people have ordered here. 40 is a higher base, right? So that will take the revenue by number down. So you can't take revenue by customer, you need to take revenue by visitor. What does a visitor mean? The number of people who have came to the, right, which is almost equal. So this will help you to translate, okay, the revenue is not going down, the numbers are constant. What things you should look at? Orders, are the orders increasing? Yes, people are ordering more product. This is something that you'll get to the data. So the ideal metric would be number of people who ordered through buy now or place order divided by people who came to the cart. This is one of the metrics that you should track. If this metric itself is down, right, here, if this metric is itself 20, then there is no room for discussion. Anyway, this revenue is going to be down because we know people are ordering single products here, right, from here. So there is no room for discussion. So just not this ratio will help you. You need to have another ratio, which is revenue per visitor, which will help you to understand, okay, how much people are ordering, right? So yeah, this was slightly a different example. In my opinion, you should also see items which are ordered. If in a single order earlier there were three items which were ordered, now single items are being ordered, right? So what is happening? We also saw that new customer conversion was very high, was high. So people, the new customer orders easily through that single button compared to this. So yeah, that is it. That's it. Thanks for joining in. Thanks for today's lecture. I'll be here on the call. If you guys have any doubt, feel free to uh, ask me. I'll just launch the poll. Which, yeah, poll.
Recording stopped.
I'll share my LinkedIn as well. If you guys have any doubts, you can ping me, or if you're working towards something and you require my assistance somewhere, you guys can ping me. So